Welcome back to Ronin Recap. Now on to the next chapter.
Looking carefully, the man was middle-aged, in a black robe. His golden hair was slightly curled, and half of his face was covered with a beard. His deep eyes gave people a sense of relief. The most eye-catching thing was the staff in the man's hand. On the cane made of some unknown material, a spiraling black snake was carved. The snake was lifelike. There were two ear-like sarcomas on the top of the head. The eyes were blood red, the tongue was spitting out, and the scales exuded daunting gloom. The god of medicine, Asclepius. At the sight of the walking stick, Locke already knew who the man was. It's really the god of medicine, Asclepius. Locke's shoulders trembled slightly, and the excitement in his eyes was strong. When the god of medicine appeared, the problem of his practicing magic could be solved. The light door disappeared and the room returned to peace. As Asclepius looked around curiously, his eyes finally fell on Locke. "Welcome, Asclepius, I'm Locke Capet." Although Locke tried his best to suppress his excitement, his voice was still trembling. "Hello, Locke." Looking at Locke, Asclepius was also very casual, greeted with a smile. After greeting, the two sat down on the chairs beside the tea table. After sitting down, Asclepius closed his eyes to feel the surrounding environment and said, "This world is really magical. It actually has completely different law systems. Moreover, I feel the aura of the goddess, Athena, from you." Locke nodded. "Yes, she lives next door. But it's late now. I guess you won't be able to see her until tomorrow." "Ha ha, it doesn't matter. I'm not in a hurry to meet her." Asclepius smiled awkwardly and waved his hand. Athena was a famous aloof goddess. If he went to disturb her at such a late time, he might be slapped by her. "Mr. Asclepius." Locke couldn't wait to ask, "I have some physical problems and can't practice magic. Can you help me check it?" "Practice magic? Let me check it for you." After a short pause, Asclepius pointed at Locke with his walking stick and a burst of blue energy entered Locke's body. Half a minute later, Asclepius finished his examination and said helplessly, "I need to get familiar with the magic system of this world to find out what's wrong with your body. Sorry, I was too anxious." Locke smiled apologetically. He knew he was too anxious. It was late now, so Locke decided that a place for Asclepius would be arranged first. After the castle was expanded, there were already more rooms, and Locke immediately arranged a room for Asclepius on the other side of his bedroom. Locke went back to his bedroom after he took the Asclepius to the room. Host: Locke Capet. Race: human race. Binding identity: Lord of Lister. Occupation: no. Summoning God 1. Aten. Fondness: friendly, O. Faith point: 102. Summoning God 2. Asclepius. Fondness: neutral, 20. Faith point: it can be opened after the establishment of the divine temple. Locke opened the attribute panel and saw several more lines of data. Moreover, just for a while, the fondness had actually reached 20 points. A good man. Asclepius was really a good man. With expectation, Locke fell asleep. The second day, in the restaurant of the castle. "I have something to tell you." Seeing Athena come out, Locke said with a smile. He was already looking forward to the surprised expression on Athena's face when she knew the arrival of the god of medicine, Asclepius. However, Locke was disappointed. Athena sat down slowly. Before he opened his mouth, she asked lightly, "Do you want to talk about the matter of Asclepius?" "You already know." Looking at Athena, Locke was stunned. But on second thought, he felt that he still thought too simple. With Athena's means, she might know everything about the castle. "It's so boring. I thought I could see your surprised expression." Pursing his lips, Locke complained somewhat boringly. Seeing Locke's frustrated expression, Athena smiled charmingly. After thinking for a while, she naughtily replied, "Then I will cooperate with you next time." At this time, Asclepius had also entered the restaurant. Seeing that Locke was actually intimate with Athena, he couldn't help but admire Locke secretly. When he approached Athena, he bowed to her and greeted her respectfully, "Master Athena." Locke wasn't surprised that Asclepius called Athena in this way. After all, Athena was one of the 12 main gods of Olympus. It was normal for Asclepius to call her, "Master." Athena nodded and said calmly, "Have a seat." "Hi, Locke." Then Asclepius greeted Locke. "Hello, Asclepius, how was your sleep last night?" Locke asked with a smile. Asclepius seemed very satisfied with the bed last night, smiled, and said, "It's pretty good." The sudden appearance of a person in the castle surprised Cotter and the others, but they did not ask more. Residents and servants also didn't dare to say anything more. In the past few days, the status of Athena in the hearts of residents had risen greatly. After feeling the magic of the divine temple, all residents had confirmed that Athena was the spokesperson chosen by gods. Cotter, Hansen, and the others were busy reclaiming the land. Outside, as long as Cotter, Curtin, and other knights had time, they would go to Victory Temple of Athena to practice. Since the last time they discovered that practicing in the divine temple could get twice the result with half the effort and increase the speed of the practice, Cotter and others hoped to stay in the temple for practice every day. Of course, Locke was happy to see the efforts of his men. In order to make Asclepius more familiar with the magic power of the world, Athena personally released several magics. Locke also prepared a lot of basic magic books for him. After Asclepius got the magic book, he began to study it. Locke, on the other hand, continued his training. The training ground was changed to the square of the divine temple. On the second day, Asclepius had already studied thoroughly and prepared to transform Locke's body. And Locke had obtained the most crucial thing to transform the body, the blood of the snake girl, Gorgon, in advance. In the practice room of the divine temple, there were only 3 people, Locke, Athena, and Asclepius. Looking at Locke, who was sitting cross-legged, Asclepius said seriously, "According to my judgment, although the amount of spirit power in your body is unusually strong, due to the soul, your physique has undergone a change and can't have any reaction to magic element, so you can't keep magic element. There are many risks to transform your body, but fortunately, your physical strength has been greatly improved after a long time of exercise. Even so, the process of transformation will still be very painful. It's okay. Come on," Locke said firmly without any hesitation. Although he had the chance to practice divine power now, he had always dreamed of learning magic. He would not miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. "In that case, let's start." Asclepius nodded and said nothing more. Because Asclepius's divine power was lost now, he only provided the magic array that could transform the body. It needed Athena to control the magic array. As Athena raised her hand, a mysterious and complicated triangle appeared in her hand. The mysterious triangle flew over Locke's head and emitted a blue luster, wrapping Locke in the blue light. Then Asclepius opened the bottle containing the blood of the snake girl, Gorgon, and poured the blood into the mysterious triangle. Locke only felt a huge force quickly entering his body from above his head. The force spread in his body, impacting the meridians and muscles in his body with a crushing momentum. For a moment, Locke felt like thousands of ants were eating his flesh and blood. Although he was mentally prepared, the piercing pain almost made him faint. Gritting his teeth, Locke endured the pain hardly. In half a minute, big drops of sweat rolled down Locke's face. His face was twisted in pain and his body was trembling slightly. Looking at Locke's painful expression, Athena was a little worried and looked at Asclepius with an unkind look. "Are you sure there is nothing wrong with your method?" "Absolutely no problem." Being stared at by Athena, Asclepius felt chill on his back and hurriedly promised. In front of the great god, Athena, let alone his lack of power now, even in his peak period, he was weaker than her. There will indeed be heart-digging pains, but he can only rely on himself. It seemed that Asclepius was afraid that Athena would not believe him, so he added. Hearing this, Athena looked away and continued to observe the change of Locke. At the same time, Locke was still suffering indescribable pain, as if a meat grinder was slowly crushing his body. The force continued to tear and rebuild Locke's meridians and flesh. "I must hold on. I can't give up. I can't give up." Locke's consciousness was gradually fading away, and he could only warn himself again and again in his heart. Pain. The unbearable pain continued. It didn't know how long time had passed. Maybe 1 second, maybe 1 minute, 10 minutes, or 10 hours, or even 1 year. Locke had forgotten the concept of time. Finally, when Locke was about to lose his consciousness, the sharp pain in his body disappeared instantly and a cool and comfortable breath entered his body. At that moment, Locke felt unprecedentedly comfortable and happy. His consciousness gradually returned to his real body. "Congratulations. You made it." Locke heard a gentle and joyful voice. He opened his eyes and saw an attractive smile on Athena's face. "Hutilda brat, you're finally able to make it through, or I'll be cut off by someone. Seeing that Locke had woken up, Asclepius complained to the side. Although he said so, he was obviously relieved to see that Locke was fine. You don't know. He wanted to complain about how nervous Athena was just now, but before he could finish his word was stopped by Athena's threatening eyes. Standing up and moving briefly, Locke found that his body was light and very comfortable. I'm fine. Don't worry. After saying that to Athena, Locke looked at Asclepius and sincerely said, "Thank you, Asclepius." Just now, he tried to introduce the magic element into his body. To his excitement, the magic element did not disappear. You're welcome. Shaking his head, Asclepius paused for a while and then said slowly, "There is an important thing right now." Locke was startled by his expression. He asked hurriedly, "What's the matter?" Before Asclepius could say anything, Athena said with disgust, "You smell too bad. You need to take a shower first." Locke was stunned. He looked down and found the problem. He didn't know when his skin was covered with a layer of black mud-like material. These things were not only disgusting but also gave off a disgusting smell. The transformation just now has eliminated all the impurities in your body. Asclepius covered his nose, opened the door, and was about to leave. I'm leaving. The smell is too strong. His chapter is updated by November. Bean. Co per meter. The disgusting smell made Locke want to throw up. Well, I'll go now. Locke smiled at Athena awkwardly and ran to the castle as fast as he could. After taking a shower, Locke couldn't wait to practice magic and began to meditate. Half an hour later, Locke opened his eyes in surprise and there was an uncontrollable excitement in his tone. I can finally condense magic element in my body. I can learn magic. After half an hour's meditation, a small mass of magic element had condensed in his body. Of course, these magic elements were very weak, and they were not enough to support Locke to use level 1 magic. After transforming his body, Locke practiced magic while developing the small universe. When Athena had reached the level of friendly to his fondness, Locke received the reward of power of perception. Locke understood quickly both magic theory and magic techniques. This made him more proficient in magic, and the speed at which he learned magic was like a rocket. As a doctor, Asclepius was responsible for curing residents of Lister or collecting herbs on the mountain to study medicine. At the same time, under Cotter and Hansen's leading, residents had already reclaimed the farmland. The next step was to cultivate the land. A few days ago, Locke had already selected a warehouse and taken out the potatoes rewarded by the system. Looking at the potatoes in a warehouse, Cotter was shocked and speechless. When did potatoes show up in the warehouse? He knew Lister's situation very well. There were absolutely no potatoes in this warehouse. And he didn't see anyone transport potatoes in. Was it a spatial treasure? Thinking of this possibility, Cotter's breath became faster and faster. But how could his master have such a precious spatial treasure? Even if selling the whole Capet family, Locke couldn't afford a spatial treasure. Locke laughed and didn't explain. He went to practice directly. He knew that the rest of the things could be arranged well by Cotter. Curtain, Master Locke is getting more and more mysterious. We have to work hard on practice. We can't be a burden to Master Locke. Looking at the figures of residents carrying potatoes, Cotter felt a huge pressure enveloping his head. First, it was the powerful and mysterious Miss Athena, then the highly skilled doctor, Mr. Asclepius, and now so much food suddenly appeared. They seemed to be more and more useless. Curtin took a deep breath and nodded in agreement. Practice. They had to practice hard to keep up with Master Locke. The two thought at the same time in their hearts. After getting the potatoes of Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, the residents of Lister began to plant them in full swing. The residents also found a magical phenomenon. The soil of the Lister's farmland had been greatly improved. In addition to the soil, the plants that were about to die also began to recover. Generally speaking, it seemed that the environment of the whole Lister was gradually improved. The divine temple must be the fortune the Lord mentioned. It didn't need Locke to say, the residents had associated this change with the divine temple. In this period, with the help of the divine temple, Cotter had successfully advanced to be a knight of level 2. Curtin also broke through a bottleneck and became a knight of level 1. It seemed that Sam and the others were stimulated by the two people. They also entered the crazy practice mode. As long as they had time, they would go to the practice room of Victory Temple of Athena. On the square of Victory Temple of Athena, Locke was sitting cross-legged, surrounded by a trace of purple power. In order not to be disturbed by others, Athena had already activated the enchanted barrier on the square to isolate the others from the outside. Focus. Athena still looked like a devil drillmaster. She kept serious and reminded Locke lightly, continue to compress the volume of the energy in your body to improve the quality of the energy. At this time, Locke's eyes were closed, and a purple mass of air was spinning, tearing, exploding, and finally reorganizing and circling in his body. It seems that Locke is going to succeed. Standing far away from Locke, Asclepius felt the energy change in Locke's body and murmured. Boom. At the same time, the purple mass of light in Locke's body had undergone the last explosion and rebuilding. In the blink of an eye, it had formed a purple vortex. The purple vortex slowly rotated, giving people a mysterious and vast feeling. In the innermost part of the vortex, there were 6 stars with overflowing divine power. Through the introduction of the small universe practice method, Locke knew that the first 5 senses in the human small universe were vision, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. The first 5 stars represented these 5 senses. When human beings broke through themselves and awakened the small universe, they could light up the 6th star. Whoosh tilde. The small universe formed through practice. Locke exhaled deeply and opened his eyes in surprise. As he spoke, he raised his right hand, and purple divine power sizzled in the palm. After practicing the small universe, Locke had a deeper feeling of the divine power. Although the force in his hand was very weak, the destructive force was definitely stronger than the magic element or fighting spirit of the same size. Very good. Although there is still a long way to go, it is a good start. Looking at the divine power in Locke's hands, Athena rarely smiled during the training. After you have practiced the small universe, you need to improve the level of the small universe and the familiarity to control the divine power. But you don't have to worry about missing the magic practice. Divine power can help you quickly grasp magic or other fighting skills. As she spoke, she waved her slender arm in the air, and the enchanted barrier on the square dissipated. Locke nodded. He also found the problem. Although his small universe had taken shape, his control over the divine power was not enough. For example, now, just condensing the divine power in the palm was very difficult, let alone fighting against others with the divine power. From tomorrow on, let's change a training method. I will suppress my practice to the same level as yours and carry out combat training for you. Athena told Locke her plan. Fight with you. Locke was stunned at first. After thinking for a while, he nodded and said, okay, no problem. Athena had the title of War Goddess, so she must have rich combat experience. The battle with Athena would definitely improve his control over the divine power quickly. Then you get ready. We'll start tomorrow. After saying that, Athena turned around and was about to go back to read a book. After Athena left, Asclepius came over and patted Locke on the shoulder. Boy, you are really brave. I have to silently pray for you. He had been lucky enough to witness the battle between Athena and the other main gods, which was extremely terrifying. The name, War Goddess, was not a waste. Although Asclepius also felt that Athena still treated Locke differently, according to his knowledge of Athena, Locke would suffer a lot. Is it so horrible? Looking at the back of Asclepius, Locke was confused. He found that in front of Athena, Asclepius was like a good baby. With a helpless smile, Locke no longer thought and went back to rest. On the second day, Locke finally understood the meaning of the word from Asclepius. Bang tilde. On the square, Locke was kicked away by Athena again and hit hard on the wall in the distance. Ahem tilde, find the newest novels on. N. Ovalbent com. Locke struggled to stand up, feeling a sharp pain in his chest. Seeing that Athena was about to take action again, he got goosebumps all over his body. He forced a smile and said, how about, this is the end of today's training. At this time, he had a bloody nose and swollen face, and there was pain everywhere. However, when Athena looked at Locke, her face was cold. She said emotionlessly 2 words, go on. Without giving Locke a chance to retort, Athena gathered all her divine power in her palm and slapped him. Locke almost burst into tears when he saw Athena coming towards him again. Although he was depressed, his speed was not slow. He dodged aside directly. At the same time, his brain was running rapidly. He He recalled the details of the previous times when he was hit by Athena, so as not to fall into this again. Although Athena's practice base had been suppressed to the same level as Locke's level, she still had much more combat experience than Locke. Locke had almost no chance to resist Athena. However, Athena, the devil drillmaster, was never soft-hearted. She kicked Locke away every time. Boom. After a few moves, Locke hit a pillar in the distance again. Looking at Locke's bruised appearance, Asclepius, who was watching aside, couldn't help but shiver. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. In half a month, planting potatoes had been finished in Lister. Therefore, Locke got an excellent level system reward, the construction drawing of the sword in the stone of King Arthur. However, there was not a master of weapon refining in Lister. This reward was a little useless to Locke, so he left it in the system zone. After being tortured by Athena for half a month, Locke finally could hold on for a few minutes under Athena's attack. But it was only a few minutes. As long as Athena increased her strength a little, Locke would be defeated. One day, Locke got half a day's rest and adjustment time, so he leisurely looked at the training of his subordinates. On the training ground outside the castle, 3 people, Curtin, Becky, and Sam, were besieging Cotter. The horses neighed and weapons clashed with each other. Mr. Cotter, defeat them. Come on, Mr. Curtin, Mr. Sam, Mr. Becky, you will definitely defeat Mr. Cotter. Their respective retinues were cheering for them in the distance. After half a month of crazy practice and the function of the Divine Temple, Sam and Becky successfully became the Knights of Level 1. Although Cotter was attacked by 3 Level 1 Knights at the same time, he was still skillful and didn't feel any pressure at all. Bang! Curtin was thrown down from the horse by Cotter. The 3 of them were already under pressure when facing the Level 2 Knight, and now there was even one missing. Sam and Becky didn't hold on for long before they were hit out by Cotton. Uncle Cotter, let's play some moves. Watching the fierce fight between the 4, Locke felt a little itchy. During this period of practice, he had never fought with any other practitioners except Athena. He wondered how strong he was compared with the ordinary practitioner. Now that Master Locke wants to compete with me, I'll practice with you. Cotter jumped off the horse and said with a smile. Curtin and the others quickly retreated to the side of the training ground, leaving enough room for Locke and Cotter to fight. On the training ground, Locke and Cotter were confronting each other. The others were holding their breath and waiting for the 2 to fight. Master Locke, watch out. Cotter reminded, who took the lead in chopping towards Locke with his big sword. Of course, he didn't want to hurt Locke, so he only used 30% of his strength. Feeling the intensity of the fighting spirit on Cotter's body, Curtin's face changed slightly. He complained dissatisfiedly, how could Cotter be like this? He knows clearly that Master Locke hasn't been practiced for a long time and still uses such strong strength. I think that Cotter will control his strength and won't hurt Master Locke. Sam said slowly. Although he said so, there was obvious worry in his tone. Becky looked at the 2 on the training ground nervously. Contrary to the worries of Curtin and the others, Locke didn't panic at all when he saw Cotter coming towards him. He tiptoed and dodged aside vigorously. Wow! Seeing Locke dodge so easily, the crowd outside the ground exclaimed. Avoiding the attack from Cotter, Locke smiled and teased, Uncle Cotter, if you want to defeat me, I'm afraid that you should use enough strength. He also noticed that Cotter did not use all his strengths. Holding the big sword in his hand, Cotter was a little surprised. Locke's speed was almost as fast as his just now. Master Locke dodged it so easily. Looking at Locke, Becky said in shock. Sam took a deep breath, suppressed the shock in his heart, and said in surprise, the speed of Master Locke just now must have surpassed us. Looking at the 2 people on the ground, Curtin added in a trembling tone, no, no. Master Locke's speed is not only faster than ours, to be exact, he has caught up with Cotter. His tilde. Sam and Becky felt their scalp tingling. It seems that if I don't show some real skills today, I won't win so easily. Finally, Cotter became serious. This time, he had to use 60% of his strength. He believed that although Locke's speed was very fast, Locke's strength was definitely not as powerful as him. He was a real level 2 knight. Since it was Uncle Cotter who started the fight, let me do it this time. With these words, Locke's eyes narrowed slightly. The small universe in his body began to work, and a faint strong aura was emitted from his body. After a month's training, Locke had been able to operate the small universe and use the divine power skillfully. The small universe in his body had also entered the middle stage of the sixth sense, and its combat power was equivalent to level 2 practitioners of Acacia continent. What was this? Feeling Locke's strength, Cotter's heart skipped a beat. Danger. He sensed danger from Locke. This power was not the fighting spirit, but he was sure that it was definitely stronger than the fighting spirit. Bang! Locke kicked the floor with his feet and stabbed at Cotter as fast as a shooting star. The huge recoil left 2 footprints of 5 or 6 centimeters deep on the ground. So fast. With a scream, Cotter couldn't see what Locke was doing. Gritting his teeth, Cotter made a defensive posture, staring at the direction in which Locke came, trying to capture Locke's movements. I found it. Within a second, Cotter finally figured out the direction of Locke's long sword. With years of fighting experience, Cotter held his big sword horizontally in front of his chest. Clang tilde. After resisting Locke's attack, Cotter took 2 steps back with his feet, and then his body spun. With a strong power of fighting spirit on his arm, he wielded his big sword and hacked at Locke. Locke was surprised to see that not only did Cotter resist his attack, but Cotter also attacked him again. The small universe within his body rapidly worked, and his divine power was also rapidly gathering. The long sword in Locke's hand emitted a faint purple light, waved towards the big sword of Cotter. Clang tilde. The sound of the collision of weapons made the ears of the people around hurt, and a strong wave of energy directly forced them to take a step back. He is so powerful. Cotter felt as if his big sword had cut into a piece of black iron, unable to move forward at all. He felt a dull pain in his palm. Seeing that he couldn't win by his strength, Cotter distanced himself from Locke again. Locke chased after the victory and the long sword was waved towards Cotter's neck. Cotter cut Locke's long sword with his sword and then chopped at Locke's waist. They continued to attack and the two of them fought 7 or 8 times in the blink of an eye. The more Cotter fought, the more frightened he became. In the end, he no longer suppressed his strength. Bang! The 2 men's weapons collided. Your favorite novels at novel.com. Uncle Cotter, it's over. Just as Cotter was still in a state of surprise, Locke's smiling voice rang in his ears. Before he could react, he suddenly felt a palm falling on his chest. The huge force in the palm directly threw him away. There was dead silence in the whole ground, and there was no sound at all. Master Locke actually defeated the level 2 knight, Cotter. And now Master Locke seemed not to have done his best. Curtin and the others were petrified. With exaggerated expressions, they felt something was buzzing in their heads. Just 3 months at most, Master Locke had only been practicing for 3 months. He could easily defeat a level 2 practitioner. Although Cotter was defeated by Locke, he was not discouraged at all. On the contrary, his eyes gradually became moist, and his trembling voice was full of excitement and emotion. Sir Count, you are not disappointed. Master Locke is really a genius. Master Locke was not even 17 years old now. At this age, he can defeat the level 2 knight. There were only a few people like this in Naden County. As was known to all, James, called the first genius, in Naden County, was now only a level 2 mage. Although a level 2 mage was much better than a level 2 knight, according to the performance of Master Locke just now, even if he couldn't win, he could at least tie. Uncle Cotter, are you hurt? Locke walked up to pull Cotter up, asking worriedly. After the battle just now, Locke had a certain understanding of his strength. It should be no problem to deal with the ordinary level 2 practitioners. Perhaps he had the strength of level 3. Locke could only make a rough estimate. He had no other reference except for Cotter. Master Locke, you win. His tone exciting, Cotter stood up and shook his head, indicating that he was fine. Master Locke is powerful. Master Locke is awesome. Ha ha, Master Locke wins. Long live Master Locke. Curtin and the others on the training ground also cheered up. They were excited and their eyes were burning. They were all happy that Locke had become stronger. Just as everyone was cheering, a beautiful figure appeared in front of them. Miss Athena. Curtin said to Athena respectfully. They all knew that their Master Locke was trained by this lady in front of them. Athena greeted them with a smile. I've watched the battle just now. After stopping in front of Locke, Athena's beautiful face became serious as she was training. She said slowly, although you won in the end, in my opinion, there are still too many flaws and a lack of combat experience. Curtin and others were surprised at the place, their expressions a bit stunned. Just now, the two of them had fought with each other for less than 10 moves. In less than 10 moves, Master Locke had defeated the practitioner of level 2. How could Miss Athena not be satisfied? Even Cotter was a little stunned. Just now, Master Locke had done a good job. Was Miss Athena a little harsh on Locke? Find the newest novels on n-ovalbent.com. Different from other people's astonishment, Locke was lost in thought and began to recall the whole process of the battle. He knew that, since Athena said there was something wrong with his battle, there must be something wrong. When everyone was sighing at Athena's sternness, Athena continued, just like your sprint. If Cotter takes a risk and doesn't choose to defend himself, he chooses to directly pull open your weapon and gather all his strength on the big sword, stabbing directly at you. You will die miserably. Locke recalled what Athena had told him and felt a chill down his spine instantly. Yes, if it was a life and death battle just now, Cotter would have directly deflected his long sword and hit his heart. Under the great inertia, he had no time to change his attacking move. After a moment's silence, Cotter nodded his head silently. Because it was just a practice, he did not pay too much attention to the opportunity to kill his opponent. Instead, he chose a conservative defense. If it was a real battle, it would indeed be a fatal flaw. Well, it seems that I still need to strengthen practice. Locke shrugged helplessly and sighed. Seeing that Locke seemed to be a little discouraged, Cotter comforted him. Master Locke, you don't have to be discouraged. You have done a good job compared with others. Ha ha, don't worry, Uncle Cotter. I'm not a person who can't stand a blow. Locke laughed and joked. Seeing Locke's resolute face, Cotter was stunned. The image of Locke before, the stubborn boy, who had never given up in the face of ridicule, suddenly came to his mind. Master Locke had never changed. He was always like this. At night, stars twinkled in the sky, and the soft moonlight covered the whole ground. On the wall outside the castle, the burning fire crackled. Athena sat next to Locke, quietly watching Locke's busy figure. Asclepius was sitting against the wall, staring at the fire. On the fire, there were 2 golden rabbits roasted. The oil on the rabbit meat made a sizzling sound, emitting an alluring smell of roasted meat, which was very attractive. Boy Locke, is it okay? Looking at the rabbit meat, Asclepius asked anxiously, swallowing his saliva. Almost. Locke replied helplessly while grilling the rabbit meat. It seemed that this was the 4th time that Asclepius had asked him. Soon, the rabbit meat was done. Locke tore off a rabbit leg and gave it to Athena. Then he handed the rest to Asclepius. After taking over the rabbit meat, Asclepius started to devour it. Compared with him, Athena was much more elegant. She ate slowly, but her delicate and coincidental face was also full of satisfaction. Locke took off the 2nd rabbit and tore a rabbit leg for himself. Soon, the 3 of them ate up all the rabbit meat. Boy Locke, let's not say anything else, I really admire your barbecue skills. Rubbing his belly with satisfaction, Asclepius exclaimed. He had eaten a lot of delicious food in his previous life, but Locke's roast meat was ranked at the top level. Locke put his hands behind his head and lay comfortably on the ground. Of course, I'm sure you can't find anyone in the world who can cook as well as me. You brag, boy. Although Asclepius had agreed with Locke in his mind, he still couldn't bear to see Locke's smug face. Under the dim light of the fire, the girl's face turned red as if she was shy and particularly charming. There are many bandit teams around Lister. I want to deal with them. Turning to look at the stars in the sky, Locke spoke out his plan. This will not only increase my combat experience but also solve the financial problem of Lister. According to Cotter's report, although they had robbed more than 10,000 gold coins from the bandits last time, there was not much left after the castle was built and a large amount of food was bought. So he focused on the bandit teams nearby. It could not only eliminate harm for the people but also bring benefits for himself. It was a win-win situation. That's a good idea. The bandits nearby are not strong, and they are suitable for you to practice. After thinking for a few seconds, Athena nodded and said with a smile. Since Athena didn't think it was a problem, Locke didn't hesitate anymore. He stood up and said, okay, I'll ask Uncle Cotter to inform everyone. We'll leave tomorrow. In addition to knowledge of medical material and skill, Asclepius was not interested in fighting at all. He waved his hand and said, these little bandits will be handled by you. I'd better continue to study herbs, haha. He didn't worry about Locke's strength. Besides, Athena, the great god, was there, so he didn't need to worry about them. After Locke left, Athena and Asclepius also didn't stay. The two returned to their rooms in the castle. Locke was waiting for Cotter in the hall. Seeing Cotter coming, Locke said directly, "Uncle Cotter, I'm going to eliminate the bandits around Lister tomorrow. Tell everyone to have a good rest tonight and we'll set out early tomorrow morning." Eliminate the bandits. Stunned, Cotter didn't understand why Locke suddenly thought of eliminating bandits. That's right. We don't have many gold coins left. We can just get some money from the bandit teams. Locke nodded with an evil smile. To get money from bandits. Looking at Locke's face, Cotter was speechless in his mind. Others were afraid of bandits and kept a distance, but his master was thinking about how to get money from them. He felt a little crazy when sounding it. Discover new stories on November ELB.com. Master Locke, we still need to think about it carefully. These bandits are all outlaws. If we go there rashly like this, we will be in danger. Don't worry, Uncle Cotter. You know me well. Locke understood what Cotter meant. He smiled and said confidently, I won't do anything without confidence. Seeing that Locke was so confident, Cotter didn't say anything more. He nodded with a smile and said, Master Locke, I'll ask them to prepare now. He was now the knight of level 2, and Curtin, Sam, and Becky had become the knight of level 1. In addition, Locke could even defeat the knight of level 2. They were a powerful force. Even if they met a powerful opponent, even if they couldn't defeat him, it wouldn't be a problem for them to retreat unscathed. Cotter quickly informed the news to everyone. When they knew that Locke was going to take them to rob bandits, they were in an uproar. Of course, after the uproar, they were more excited. The next day, Locke led Cotter and the others majestically toward the bandits' fortress, planting the flag of the Capet family. Athena didn't follow them to attack the bandit team this time. For this, Locke had no objection to it. Of course, he knew that it was Athena who was training him. They moved very fast. At noon, they arrived the nearest bandits' fortress, Osborne bandits. Osborne, the leader of the bandits, was a dark mage of level 2. As one of the sharper attackers in Mage, Osborne had long been known for his ferocity. The strength of the bandit team he established was ranked second among the surrounding bandit teams. The one who ranked first was the Black Rock bandits eliminated by Locke, with a fire mage of level 2. As they kept moving forward, Locke and the others were less than a kilometer away from the fortress. In the meeting hall of the fortress, Dear Chief, there is a team of more than 20 people appearing at the gate of our fortress. The team has several flags with the sign of irises. The leaders are a young man and a young girl. There is no energy fluctuation on the two of them, and they don't seem to be strong themselves, but the 4 men behind them all emit a strong aura. According to my conjecture, 3 of them are very likely to be level 1 practitioners, and the other one may even be a level 2 practitioner. Each of them is holding a weapon and seems to have some malicious intentions. A masked bandit reported the situation at the foot of the mountain to the man in a black robe in the main seat. The man in a black robe was thin, with almost no flesh on his face. It was as if he was directly wrapped in a layer of human skin on his bones, and his arms were exposed outside. It was like a dead branch, and his skin was close to his bones. He was the leader of Osborne bandits, the level 2 dark mage Osborne. Iris. Osborne stood up at once, his dry face twitching violently. The iris was the symbol of the Capet family. It must be Capet, the loser, who was coming. Angus was defeated by Capet. Even Black Rock bandits was destroyed. If the battle started, his Osborne bandits would probably be unable to survive. Slowly sitting down, Osborne's face became even worse and his eyes were gloomy. The news that Black Rock bandits was destroyed was like a bomb in the crowd, shocking all the bandits around. After investigation, many of the bandit teams thought that this matter seemed to have something to do with Lister. Of course, many bandit teams did not believe that such a large group of bandits could be destroyed by people in a barren place like Lister. Moreover, it was said that recently the Lord of Lister was acknowledged as the #1 loser of Naden County. Could a loser be able to kill a level 2 mage? Therefore, they guessed that Black Rock bandits had offended some powerful practitioners and was killed by others. There were different opinions about the reason why the Black Rock bandits was destroyed. But only Osborne knew that the Black Rock Bandits was destroyed by the widely acknowledged loser who was in Lister now. He and Angus were both from the Brandon family, one of the top forces of Naden County. They had all received the order from the Brandon family to take over Lister, but Angus acted a step faster than him. 3 level 1 practitioners and 1 level 2 knight. Osborne murmured, comparing the strength of Osborne bandits and the enemy. This loser might have a powerful practitioner backing him up, or perhaps a powerful fire mage. After all, in the fortress of Black Rock Bandits, the spy had found a strong aura of the fire element. In addition to these, is there any other abnormal person in the team? Squinting his eyes, Osborne asked in a low voice. No, there are only these people in the team. I especially sent someone to detour from the path to the back of the other party, and did not find anyone else. The masked bandit answered affirmatively. How dare Capet bring someone here alone? He is courting death. A cold light burst out from Osborne's eyes. He grabbed the magic wand and ordered, tell everyone to cheer up. I want to capture Locke Capet alive. As long as Osborne caught Capet, there was a hostage in his hand. Even if there was a powerful practitioner behind Locke, he would be afraid of it and dare not do anything else. He had already spread all the news here to his family. When his family sent a more powerful mage over, no matter who was behind Locke Capet, they would have no choice but to die without a burial place. Compared with Black Rock Bandits, the scale of Osborne Bandits was undoubtedly much smaller, but there were also 40 or 50 people. Sure enough, there was no one else. Ha ha, Locke Capet, you would pay for your conceit. After carefully checking Locke's team against the wall, Osborne began to sneer in his heart. Capet, how dare you come here to court death on your initiative? It was you that asked trouble. Looking down at Locke, Osborne's eyes narrowed into a seam, radiating a cold light. Are you the leader of Osborne Bandits? Locke smiled faintly and ignored Osborne's threat. He raised his long sword and shouted at the bandits on the wall, listen, the bandits of Osborne Bandits. If you surrender, I won't kill you. Surrender. Ha ha, if the practitioner behind you said that, I might be a little scared. Now you are just a loser. How dare you want the great Osborne Bandits to surrender? Osborne laughed as if he had heard a joke. The other bandits also laughed at him. Capet, you will pay a heavy price for your recklessness and arrogance today. Death Shackle. While speaking, Osborne waved the magic wand in his hand. Turbulent dark elements flew out of the crystal of the magic wand and formed a black energy ball in midair. Something in the black mass was constantly stirring as if it was about to rush out of the restraints of the black mass. Shoop, shoop, shoop. In an instant, 6 tentacles appeared in the black mass, and they grew rapidly, covered with barbs that made people's scalp tingling. If they were caught by these tentacles, the consequences could be imagined. Looking at the formed level 2 fettering magic, Death Shackle, Osborne had a hint of ruthlessness in his eyes. He said in a low voice, go and teach these arrogant enemies a hard lesson. Under the order of Osborne, the tentacles trembled slightly, as if they were excited about the new blood food. Then they quickly twined around Locke and the others, capturing Locke alive. As for the others, killing them all. Osborne's eyes flashed with coldness. He had already made arrangements for the fate of Locke and the others. Watch out, Master Locke. Seeing that the tentacles had already launched an attack, Cotter changed his face that was behind Locke, and reminded Locke loudly. Facing these terrifying tentacles, even he felt extremely difficult to deal with. This was the gap between a knight and a mage. A mage could not only control the powerful magic element but also launch attacks from a long distance. At the same level, a mage could almost defeat a knight and a warrior. It was the first time for Curtin and the others to face the dark mage. They lowered their bodies and carefully defended themselves, ready to make a move at any time. Was this the dark magic? Locke frowned, feeling the dark element of the dark magic. Compared with the fire element, the dark element seemed to be more corrosive and aggressive. Although Locke was amazed at the strangeness of the dark elements, he didn't forget the business. With a sweep of his long sword, the small universe in his body rapidly revolved, and the divine power instantly reached his limbs. Chief, you are invincible and powerful. Ha ha, you bastards from Capet family dare to offend the great Osborne Bandits. Go to hell. Seeing that the magic released by Osborne was attacking Locke and the others, the bandits behind him shouted. They didn't believe that their chief would fail. After all, they had never seen their chief fail. Soon, the tentacles covered with thorns extended in front of Locke and the others. Are you scared to death? Ha ha, boy, don't worry. I won't let you die so easily before I kill the practitioner behind you. Seeing that his magic was about to hit Locke, Osborn thought resentfully in his mind. However, the next moment, his withered fingers suddenly trembled, and his sunken eyes suddenly widened. Bang! In a flash, the 6 tentacles had been cut off by Locke. The cheers of all bandits completely disappeared at this moment. They looked stiffly at the tentacles that fell to the ground and twisted a few times before disappearing. The chief's dark magic was destroyed. By his opponent directly. This rumored loser was so powerful. Was it Capet who destroyed the Black Rock bandits, not some powerful practitioner? Such a terrible idea suddenly came to Osborn's mind. No, we can't put it off any longer. Now that things have come to this, either Capet or my Osborn bandits would be dead. The warriors of Osborn bandits, get out and kill the enemy. Unwilling to continue thinking, Osborn put out this terrible idea and roared directly. Death Shackle, it was just the ordinary magic of level 2. Capet wouldn't be able to withstand the next attack. After giving the order, he waved the magic wand again, and a black blade with a strong sense of death condensed in front of him. Shadow Flying Blade, shatter the enemy on the other side. Without any hesitation, Osborn directly used his strongest attack skill, level 2 dark magic, Shadow Flying Blade. The bandits also rushed out of the fortress's gate, shouting, and rushed towards Locke. Kill these damn bandits, Locke roared. The small universe in his body spun rapidly. The divine power gathered on the long sword and hacked directly at the flying dark magic. Read latest chapters at Ovalbant Company per meter. At the same time, Cotter led his men to kill the other bandits. Bang! Locke's long sword collided with the magic blade thrown out by Osborn, producing a lot of sparks. No wonder Osborn was a level 2 dark mage and indeed powerful. Locke thought to himself as he felt the pressure from the long sword. His long sword was only a weapon of level 1. If it weren't for the divine power attached to it, it should have been broken now. After a few seconds of confrontation, the magic blade dissipated because of the loss of power. He took it. Osborn found it hard to accept the fact that Locke had withstood his magic attack. But he couldn't deny the fact. Hell Spear. Osborn didn't show any mercy and released another level 2 magic, Hell Spear. A spear with fire appeared in the air suddenly and stabbed at Locke directly. Bang! Locke wielded his long sword and hacked at the spear. The spear was immediately split open by a powerful force and smashed towards the other side. Boom! The spear made a big hole on the ground in the distance. Shadow Flying Blade. Seeing that Locke once again blocked his attack, Osborn's eyes were filled with strong malice. He released 2 more magic blades in a row. Boom! Boom! However, the 2 attacks were dodged by Locke and hit the ground in the distance. Whoosh! Looking at the ground split by the shadow flying blade behind him, Locke took a deep breath and looked at Osborn. Now, it's time for me to attack. As he spoke, the small universe in Locke's body began to spin crazily, and 6 stars were also continuously emitting divine power. Click tilde click tilde. With the sword in his hand, he rushed towards Osborn. Seeing that Locke's strength didn't be weakened after being attacked for such a long time, Osborn's face darkened. Seeing Locke coming, he used the shadow flying blade again. Boom! The shadow flying blade was cut into pieces by Locke directly. How is that possible? Osborn trembled and looked at the scene in horror. How could the magic attack he was proud of be shattered by Capet in this way? The rest of the bandits were also shocked by this scene. Locke didn't give Osborn any time to be shocked. He didn't stop after the blade was broken. Do you think you can be safe by hiding yourself against the wall? The corners of Locke's mouth lifted slightly and he laughed out contemptuously. Like a cannonball, with the impact of the ground, he bounced directly towards Osborn's position. Why was this loser so powerful now? Seeing that Locke was rushing at him, Osborn was shocked, feeling so scared in his mind. Dark Shield. Osborn roared, the dark elements in his body rotating. The dark element in front of him surged wildly and had formed a black shield in the twinkling of an eye. The level 2 top defensive magic, Dark Shield. Boom! Locke swung his long sword at the shield formed by Osborn. Go to hell! Locke roared. The stars in the small universe trembled slightly, and the power in his body burst out without reservation. Crack tilde. The shield broke at a visible speed. Seeing this scene, Osborne was almost scared out of his wits. He gave up the magic shield and retreated quickly, trying to avoid Locke's attack. As the mage, Osborne, how could it be a match for Locke in speed? Locke caught up with him almost in an instant. Sis tilde. Osborne felt a sharp pain in his neck, and then he heard the sound of a sharp blade cutting his body. His consciousness began to blur. He was defeated, by a loser laughed at by everyone. The last thought also disappeared. Puff tilde. Osborne's body trembled, and then he fell to the ground stiffly. His head rolled a few meters away, and his eyes were still wide open with horror and a few unwillingness. Chief was dead. Looking at Osborne's headless body, all the bandits felt that their faith collapsed and they lost their spiritual support all of a sudden. Under the leadership of Level 2 Knight, Cotter, the bandits were beaten back one after another. The team was on the verge of collapse. Except for a few who tried their best to resist, the rest of them were captured by Locke. In fact, after killing Osborne, Locke was not in a good condition. His body felt weak for a while. He knew that this was a weak phenomenon caused by the exertion of his divine power. But the bandits on the wall had already been scared out of their wits. They fled far away and couldn't sense the abnormality of Locke. In the meeting hall of Osborne bandits, Locke leaned against a chair comfortably. His previously dry small universe had recovered a little. A magic wand from a level 2 mage, T. Playing with the magic wand of Osborne, Locke felt a little regretful. Unfortunately, only the dark mage can use it. But this magic wand is worth at least 10,000 gold coins. Thinking of this, Locke's mood became good instantly. In the warehouse of Osborne bandits, Locke had also obtained more than 8,000 gold coins. In addition to the gold coins, there were also a large number of herbs, gold and silver jewelry, precious beast hide and so on that had been robbed from the caravan. After cleaning up the whole fortress, Locke went back with his men first. There were only more than 20 people. They couldn't manage that. Some of them escorted captives and spoils back to their territory, while some attacked bandits again. Most importantly, this battle made everyone a little tired and they needed to adjust their state. In the evening, they arrived at Lister's territory. Seeing that their lord escorted so many captives again, Lister's residents were shocked. Their worship of Locke had become fanatical. The news that Osborne bandits was destroyed swept around several other bandit teams like a hurricane. First, it was Black Rock bandits, and now it was Osborne. The destruction of the two strongest bandit teams made the other teams unusually tremble and all carefully restrained themselves for a moment. The caravan passing by soon discovered this strange phenomenon. The unbridled bandits who used to be rampant and unscrupulous have disappeared at the same time. After investigation, these caravans knew that the two strongest bandit teams seemed to have been destroyed, so the other bandits didn't dare to show up recently. However, no matter how low-key the bandits were, they couldn't avoid being destroyed. On this day, Locke brought people to the lair of a bandit team. The leader of the bandit team was only a level 2 warrior. When he saw Cotter and other knights behind Locke, he didn't even resist and directly surrendered. On the evening of the third day, looking at the captives and the chariots of spoils behind them, the residents of Lister were still amazed. On the fourth day, the residents were still a little stunned, because they saw a familiar scene. On the road, the bandit captives walked quietly, with several chariots of spoils behind them. New updates at novel.com. On the seventh day, ellipsis. On the 15th day, looking at the two chariots of spoils and more than 10 captives, the residents of Lister were no longer surprised. In half a month, Locke had swept through all the bandit teams. During the period of sweeping the bandits, naturally many people resisted desperately, but all of them were solved without exception. In the end, as soon as many bandit teams heard that the men of the Capet family came up, many bandits directly opened the door and handed in their weapons. Then they respectfully invited Locke in and reported the amount of their property in detail. Some bandits couldn't stand it anymore. They gave up the fortress which was run for many decades and ran away with their belongings. When Locke and others arrived, they had already gone. Locke soon found that except for the biggest bandit team whose wealth was rich, the rest of them were very poor. A single fortress only owned hundreds of gold coins and some even dozens of gold coins. In the hall of Lister's castle, Master Locke, we have gained a total of 40,000 gold coins from our more than 10 actions. The rest of the jewelry necklace and beast hide aren't evaluated for the time being. Cotter reported excitedly. This was 40,000 gold coins, the tax income of the whole Capet family for 10 years. Locke nodded with satisfaction and sighed, I know why these guys choose to be bandits. This is the fastest way to make money. Saying, Locke was even a little unfulfilled. If a few more bandit teams for him to rob, how good it would be. Hearing Locke's sigh, Cotter was speechless again. It was always bandits who cared about others' things. Who would have thought that there was a person who cared about bandits' things all day long? But it was indeed a good way to make money. Thinking of the 40,000 gold coins in the warehouse, Cotter also had such an idea. Sent the medicinal materials to Asclepius. Pack up the rest and put them in the carriages. Then you go to Bone City tomorrow. Locke said to Cotter after thinking for a while. In addition to medicinal materials, these things were useless to keep, so it was better to sell them. The Cotter nodded and replied respectfully, Master Locke, I'll arrange it now. According to Locke's order, Cotter made arrangements. Locke also went back to his bedroom, preparing to take a shower and have a rest. After half a month's robbery, the name of Locke was gradually spread in several neighboring lands. Because of the caravans, the title of Bandit Terminator, Locke had even spread throughout Bone City. With the title of number 1 loser in Naden County, Locke Capet could easily defeat the practitioner of level 2. Were you kidding me? At the moment when the news spread, the nobles in Bone City laughed disdainfully. In addition to the news about bandits, the news about Victory Temple of Athena in Lister was also spread out. Of course, the aristocrats in Bone City were even more disdainful of rumors like, gods bestowed, and, appeared out of thin air. In their eyes, ordinary people were so ignorant. With the spread of Locke's name, more and more refugees and exiled people from nearby territories came to Lister. Locke wouldn't miss such a good opportunity to develop his territory. Whether it was the refugees or the exiles, they would all be accepted as residents of Lister. Now, even without the captive bandits, Lister's population had almost doubled. Host: Locke Capet. Race: human race. Binding identity: Lord of Lister. Profession: practitioner. Level: the sixth sense. Summoning God 1, Athena. Fondness: friendly 20. Faith point: 180. Summoning God 2, Asclepius. Fondness: normal 0. Faith point: it could be opened after the establishment of the divine temple. Since Locke had practiced the fire of the small universe, the attribute panel also changed. He became a divinity practitioner. A divinity practitioner should be a person practicing divine power. As expected, the people who joined Lister all became followers of Athena after they realized the magic of Victory Temple of Athena, which made the number of followers reach 180 points. During the more than a month of getting along with Asclepius, his fondness for Locke broke through almost neutral, and entered the ordinary level. However, unfortunately, the system reward did not come out. Come on, Locke Capet. Locke cheered himself up and fell asleep comfortably. On the second day, with 9 carriages of goods, Cotter and his team set off for the Bone City. To light up the next star as soon as possible and enter the 7th sense of the small universe, Locke once again threw himself into practice. After a month's battle, he still gained a lot of fighting skills, and his control over the divine power was much better. On the training ground outside the castle, swoosh tilde. A faint flame suddenly appeared in Locke's palm and the flame flickered. Don't be in a hurry. You have to accurately control fire element and slowly condense it in your palm. Athena reminded Locke slowly when she found that there was something wrong with Locke. Locke nodded slightly and adjusted the flame in his palm. Soon, with the continuous input of the fire element, the flame in Locke's palm gradually increased, and then it turned into a head-sized fireball. This was the orange fireball mentioned in the magic book. I made it. I can use magic now. Looking at the shaped fireball in his hand, Locke's breath quickened and he began to get excited. Magic. The magic he had pursued for 16 years finally came true today. Locke was thrilled when he felt the heat of the fireball. With a charming smile on her face, Athena looked at Locke gently and said, "Congratulations, Locke. You have successfully condensed the first fireball." "Thank you, Athena." Locke took a deep breath and said sincerely to the girl next to him with a happy smile on his face. Athena shook her head and said with a smile, "Although you can use fireball spell, there is still one thing that needs to be improved. Before condensing the fire element, you first refine fire element with divine power to increase the purity of fire element. After condensing fireball, to compress the size of fireball with divine power. His chapter is updated by November. Bean. Co per meter. As Athena explained, she stretched out her right hand, and a small fireball appeared in her hand. The fireball was only 1/5 the size of the fireball in Locke's hand, and the ball emitted a red light. In the small fireball, Locke felt a much stronger fluctuation of fire element than that of fireball in his hand. Okay, I'll give it a try. Nodding his head, Locke decided to push out the fireball according to the release method of the fireball spell in the magic book. Boom! The fireball smashed into the distance, creating a big hole on the ground in the distance. Ignoring the power of fireball, Locke closed his eyes, constantly extracting fire element from his body with divine power, and then gradually infused the pure fire element into his palm. A red fire grain appeared in Locke's hand and grew bigger until it was half the size of a palm. Although the size of the fireball was confined by Locke with divine power, he did not stop the infusion of the fire element. As Locke kept injecting the fire element, the small fireball began to tremble slightly. Looking at the red ball in Locke's hand, Athena reminded him in a low voice, "Control the transmission speed of the fire element. Don't make the fire element in fireball go berserk." Reminded by Athena, Locke began to control the infusion of the fire element. Finally, the trembling of the fireball stopped. Soon, the energy of the fireball reached a critical point. "Ha ha, it seems that I have succeeded in only one attempt," Locke said happily as he opened his eyes and felt the powerful power from the fireball. However, when Locke was excited, the fireball in his hand suddenly began to shake violently. Locke's face changed and he calmed down. He wanted to stop the riot in the fireball, but it was too late. The whole fireball had begun to shake, and the fire element also dashed around madly and was out of control. Damn it! Seeing that he couldn't control the fireball in his hand, Locke threw the fireball out quickly without thinking too much. The fireball dashed into the distance like a meteor. Boom! A loud explosion soared into the sky, lifting more than 10 meters of dust. Locke and Athena were besieged by a cloud of dust. Cough tilde cough tilde. Half a minute later, the dust gradually dispersed. Locke was covered with dust as if he had just been dug out of the soil. He looked very awful. As for Athena, she was protected by an invisible barrier, which stopped all the dust. "You just watch me eat the dust." Looking at Athena's clean dress, Locke said sulkily. Looking at Locke's embarrassed look, Athena burst into laughter. Then she cleared her throat and pretended to be serious. "I'll teach you a lesson. Don't be distracted when you use magic. I think you just want to laugh at me." Locke pursed his lips and complained in a low voice. He didn't believe Athena's words. "What did you say?" Athena frowned slightly, regaining her devil drillmaster's aura again. Locke was used to the way Athena changed her face. He knew how to deal with it. He shook his head in a hurry and denied, "Nothing. I didn't say anything." Looking at Locke's careful look, the corners of Athena's mouth were lifted in a pretty arc. "Well, let me try again." After stretching his arms and legs, Locke couldn't wait to have another try. According to the previous method, another fireball was condensed again. Through the power just now, he was very sure that the destructive power of the fireball spell released according to the method of Athena was almost 2 times stronger than that of the traditional fireball spell. With the lesson he had just learned, he didn't dare to be too distracted and concentrated on controlling the small fireball in his hand. On the other side, Curtin and the others rushed to the training ground nervously with weapons in their hands. Everyone was stunned when they saw the fireball in Locke's hand. The fireball seemed a little familiar. The small fireball was the fireball spell that Miss Athena used last time. The fireball spell was a skill that could only be released by mages. Did their master also become a mage? Feeling the dangerous aura from the fireball, Curtin felt that his heart could not bear it. Becky and Sam were also stunned, feeling that their brain could not react. "What are you doing?" Seeing that Curtin and the others were all armed and ready to fight, Locke was a little confused. Was there an enemy attack in Lister? We heard a loud explosion and thought there was a sneak attack from our enemy, but now, Curtin paused and turned to the fireball in Locke's hand. "Master Locke, is this the fireball spell?" Becky, Sam, and the others were also waiting for Locke's answer excitedly. In fact, They had already guessed that this should be the fireball spell, but now they always had an unreal feeling. Yes, this is a level 1 fire magic, fireball spell. I became a level 1 fire mage. Locke nodded and didn't hide it, saying with a smile. After getting Locke's confirmation, Curtin and the others all took a cold breath. After shocking, their faces gradually became excited. Master Locke has really become a distinguished mage. This must be a great miracle. Ha ha, Creator has finally made Master a mage. Everyone shouted excitedly. Read latest chapters at Ovalbant Company per meter. Well, you may leave now. I need practice. Looking at the excited crowd, Locke waved his hand. Now he was not very familiar with the use of the fireball spell. It would be bad if something unexpected happened. Master Locke, we are leaving now. Curtin nodded his head and led them to leave excitedly. Seeing Curtin and the others leave, Locke continued to practice. Boom, boom. Loud bangs came from continuously where Locke practiced. After knowing that Locke was practicing the magic, Curtin and the others were not too surprised. After some days, Locke was able to release the fireball spell skillfully. In addition to the fireball spell, he also grasped other fire magic of level 1. Because of the power of Eye of Perception, Locke could easily grasp the magic as soon as he learned it. In St. Raibuhe City, this huge city covered an area of 200 square kilometers and was the most prosperous one in Naden County. All the top families of Naden County were gathered in this city. As one of the top forces of Naden County, the Brandon family was also of great importance in St. Raibuhe City. In the biggest study of the Brandon family, a middle-aged man in a luxurious golden robe with a cold face was reading the reported all-business situation of the family. An old man about 50 or 60 years old and looking like a butler came in. Sir Count, there is news from Osborne that Angus has been killed by that loser from the Capet family. Butler Dinah reported respectfully. Seeing that Count Brandon was still lowering his head, he continued. Osborne also lost contact, so I sent someone to investigate the situation. I found that Osborne Bandits was also destroyed, and like Black Rock Bandits, they were all robbed. From the information of all the parties, it was still Locke Capet who did it. Hearing this, Count Brandon finally raised his head and asked with a frown. Locke Capet, isn't he a loser? How could he have the strength to deal with the level 2 mage? We haven't found it out yet. But there is a rumor that Lister has been blessed by gods. Gods not only chose a saintess but also gave a divine temple in Lister. Butler Dinah replied with his head down. Gods. Count Brandon sneered and said indifferently, it's just some rumors of ignorant commoners. Do you believe it? Brandon stood up and walked to the window. A maid next to him handed him a glass of red wine considerately. Count Brandon shook his glass and took a sip of red wine. He squinted his eyes and enjoyed for a while before slowly ordering. Send Monroe there. Bring more level 2 practitioners and clean up Lister. I must get that place. As for Locke Capet, while saying that, Count Brandon's eyes were full of cold killing intent. He is just a loser, but he dared to kill the people of my Brandon family. There is no need to keep him alive. Just kill him directly. Remember, do it carefully, in case that those old fellows come to make trouble for me again. Okay, Sir Count, I'll arrange it now. Butler nodded respectfully. Monroe was a level 2 mage, with a few level 2 practitioners, and they might be able to sweep all the places in the north. It was a piece of cake to deal with an insignificant baron. The so-called Count Capet was just a level 2 knight who was lucky enough to save the life of a marquis and was conferred the title of Count by breaking rules. After Butler went out, Count Brandon returned to the desk and continued to deal with the business of the Brandon family, ignoring the matter of Lister. All he cared about was the thing in Lister. Thousands of miles away, Locke was still working on practice in Lister. I will succeed this time. Locke took a deep breath and murmured. After adjusting his state, Locke began to control the fire element in his body. In a few seconds, a small fireball had condensed in the palm of his left hand. However, after condensing the fireball, Locke didn't throw it out. He stared at his right hand and his face became more serious. Under Locke's nervous gaze, a blue light grain appeared in his right palm. The blue light grain grew bigger and bigger. In a short while, it had turned into a small water ball. The water ball spell. Yes, this was water magic, which was the complete opposite of fire magic. This was also a freak of the small universe. It could release all kinds of magic through divine power. With the experience of the fireball spell, Locke got the water magic within a few days. However, it was very difficult to release two kinds of mutually exclusive magic at the same time. If one was not careful enough, he would blow himself up. When the waterball spell was completely formed, hiss tilde, the fireball on Locke's left hand suddenly became restless, almost exploding in Locke's hand. Hold on, hold on. Seeing this, Locke began to suppress the riot of fireball crazily. After a few seconds, fireball finally calmed down. Whoosh! Feeling the two magic balls, one cold and one hot in his hand, Locke exhaled heavily. After several days of hard work, he was finally able to achieve a perfect balance between the water element and the fire element. Next, he would work hard to practice the small universe and spare some time to learn other types of water magic. This morning, Locke heard some noises before he entered the hall. As soon as he came in, he saw that Cotter and the others were discussing anxiously. What happened? The moment Locke saw the expressions on their faces, he knew something must be wrong. Seeing Locke come in, the discussion in the hall stopped. With a long face, Cotter explained, "Master Locke, there is a pestilence among the exiles. More than 10 residents of Lister have been infected." Pestilence. Locke was stunned. Whether it was on the Earth in the previous life or Icacia continent, the pestilence was synonymous with disaster. Cotter nodded seriously. "Where is Asclepius?" With his eyes flickering, Locke asked in a deep voice. With the help of Asclepius, the god of medicine, Locke was not too panicked in his mind. "Mr. Asclepius has gone to check the condition of the infected people. He told us to ban the flow of people and take isolation measures before he found out the cause of the disease." Curtin replied from the side. "Although Mr. Asclepius has superb medical skills, he is not a healer after all. Only a healer can solve this kind of easily infected large-scale pestilence. There is a level 1 healer in Bone City, but it is said that he is very arrogant. I'm afraid it will cost a lot of money to invite him here." Cotter sighed in a low voice, and his face was full of worry. Although physicians could also cure patients, they were only for ordinary people. Practitioners got injured and then often needed a healer who was stronger than a physician. "You don't have to be so pessimistic. We should believe Asclepius." Locke comforted them with a smile. Then he turned to Cotter and said, "You can make arrangements according to the order of Asclepius first. Ding tilde release the system task. Help the god of medicine, Asclepius, to stop the spread of the pestilence in the territory and treat the sick residents in the territory. Rewards. It will be given according to the degree of completion of the task." Locke heard the voice of the system, which only he could hear. Since there was a system task, he had to do a better job. Thinking of this, he turned his head and said to Cotter, "Uncle Cotter, you go to comfort residents first. I'll see the situation on Asclepius's side. Master Locke, just in case, you'd better put on the shield. Find new updates on Nov, LB and Com." Cotter handed a piece of gauze in the shape of a mask to him. Locke took the shield and found that it could cover totally his mouth and nose. It should be a simple version of the mask in his previous life. Because of the psychological shadow of the Black Death in his previous life, he still put the shield on his face. In fact, the pestilence was not threatening to practitioners. Whether it was the magic element or fighting spirit, they both had the function of body protection, so Locke was not worried about his life. But even so, for ordinary people, a pestilence was absolutely a catastrophe. Soon, Locke found Asclepius. Under the command of Asclepius, all kinds of measures were completed quickly in Lister. A corresponding isolation area had been built in the morning, and the faces of the people who came to participate in the guard also wore shields. Locke walked into the isolation area and saw an infected person covered with 2 layers of quilts, but his body was still trembling coldly. A large amount of black blood had appeared on the back of another infected person's neck, and several other infected people were coughing loudly as if they were coughing out their livers. Asclepius was checking up a coughing patient. He was still dressed normally without any protective measures. After all, he was the god of medicine. Even if he lost his power, the pestilence could not threaten him. After the check-up, Locke walked out of the shed with Asclepius. "Locke, I'm afraid the pestilence will be terrible." After walking out of the shed, Asclepius rubbed his temples and said slowly, "Judging from their symptoms, the pestilence this time should be Black Death. Black Death. This disease could directly kill 1/3 of Europeans in medieval Europe. This disease also had a name, plague. This powerful infectious disease spread by rodents and fleas had killed tens of thousands of lives even in Acacia continent, which owned the extraordinary power. If my power is still there, I can end the pestilence in a blink of an eye, so it's indeed a little troublesome now. But you don't have to worry, because Victory Temple of Athena plays useful function, and the symptoms of patients in Lister are very slight. I'll give you a prescription. If you buy the medicinal materials according to the content, it should be able to cure this disease. Asclepius gave Locke a prescription full of medicinal materials. Okay, I will arrange for someone to buy these medicinal materials as soon as possible. Locke nodded. After taking the prescription, he didn't waste his time and went to find Cotter. He should first solve the pestilence in the territory and then think about the root cause. Black Death. Hearing the reason for the pestilence from Locke, Cotter's face suddenly changed, and so did Curtin and the others. Trying to suppress the shock in his heart, Cotter said to Locke with a surprisingly serious face, "Master Locke, I suggest that the first thing now is to take isolation measures to prevent Black Death from spreading." I agree with Cotter. It's beyond our ability. We'd better send for a healer to deal with it. Curtin nodded aside. Looking at the serious expressions on their faces, Locke shook his head and explained, "Asclepius has found a way to solve the pestilence." Then he handed the prescription to Cotter and said, "The medicinal materials on it can cure Black Death. You take someone to buy them now." How could Mr. Asclepius cure Black Death? Cotter and the others were stunned for a moment and couldn't react at once. Although the medical skills of Mr. Asclepius were indeed superb, it was a bit too exaggerated to treat the pestilence like Black Death. They took the prescription with doubt and saw dozens of medical materials they didn't know on it. Perhaps Asclepius could really solve this disaster. Looking at the densely packed names of medicinal materials, Cotter and the others suddenly had this idea in their hearts. "Master Locke, we will complete the task you gave us perfectly." Taking a deep breath, Cotter nodded solemnly. At such a critical moment, Cotter didn't waste any time. He immediately set out to buy medicinal materials in the Bone City. The order of Asclepius was like a sharp arrow, accurate and fast, directly stabbing the vital parts of the pestilence. There was no new patient in a day. On the early morning of the second day, Cotter came back with 2 carriages of medicinal materials. 50 grams of castor, 70 grams of gentian, 100 grams of astragalus. Asclepius took out the medicinal materials quickly and put them into the pot of medicine soup. Then, according to the command of Asclepius, the medicinal materials were soon put into the pot by the crowd. An hour later, everyone had finished decocting all the medicinal materials and gave the boiled medicine to the infected person to drink. Did this medicine work? Seeing that the infected people drank the medicine soup, Cotter and the others were still skeptical. Even if the healer was here, it would take him at least a few days to use his healing skill to cure these infected people. Not only Cotter but also the other residents also had doubts in their hearts. Although they had seen the medical skills of Asclepius, could this small bowl of medicine soup cure the terrible Black Death? All newest chapters on Note Velby and Com. On the second day, almost all the infected people's conditions had improved, and the sound of cough was reduced a lot. The rotten black pimples on some of the infected people also stopped worsening. This time, they were completely conquered by the medical skills of Asclepius. In the whole territory, everyone's eyes were full of strong respect when it came to Asclepius. Seeing that the pestilence in the territory had been controlled and the infected people were receiving treatment, Locke put himself into practice again. After 10 days, in Victory Temple of Athena, Locke was practicing the small universe while Athena was reading a book beside the wall. Meanwhile, in the room of the castle, Asclepius was studying the pharmacopoeia of Acacia continent, which was bought from Bone City. Ding tilde I have detected that host has completed the task and is checking the degree of completion of the task. The test is over, and the task completion level is perfect. Release task reward. Deblocking some of Asclepius's power. Deblocking some of Asclepius's power. Locke had already mentally prepared for the reward of the system, guessing that it would be completed soon. However, he was still a little pleasantly surprised to receive the reward of the system. Asclepius had recovered part of his strength, which was naturally convenient and harmless for Locke. As soon as the voice of System Reward fell, Asclepius gave off an extremely terrifying aura. The sky was sunny just now. In an instant, the wind was surging, and the clouds in the sky began to roll up as if something terrible was about to rush out. Both Cotter and other practitioners and residents of Lister felt like they were pressed by a huge stone, and they could hardly breathe. Is there a god coming? A resident knelt on the ground trembling and bowed to the sky. Cotter's forehead was already covered with a fine layer of sweat, and in front of this force, he could not even think of resistance. The faces of Curtin and others beside him were also a little pale. Is there any terrifying powerful practitioner who has come to Lister? Residents also attributed all the weird phenomena to the gods. They knew that some powerful practitioners could make the mountains and rivers crash and the stars eclipsed easily. Faced with the sudden recovery of his power, at first, Asclepius was confused, and then ecstatic. It feels so good after recovering my strength. Feeling the familiar and full power in his body, Asclepius burst into laughter. However, the next moment, on the wall of Victory Temple of Athena, Athena raised her hand and lightly tapped. The unbridled divine light on the body of Asclepius disappeared in an instant, the rolling clouds in the sky also disappeared, and the sky returned to its original state. The whole world returned to peace. Looking at the disappearing instantly weird phenomenon, Lister's residents looked at each other. If it weren't for the pressure engraved in their bones, they would doubt that everything just now was a dream. After suppressing the divine power fluctuation of Asclepius, Athena said with a cold face, "Be low-key, so as not to cause trouble to Locke." Hearing the voice of Athena, Asclepius in the castle gave an awkward smile and nodded hastily. "Sorry, I suddenly regained a little strength. I'm a little excited." His current strength was less than 1/10 of what he had been before. If the powerful men on this continent came here following his aura, it would be difficult to deal with. What's more, Locke had just entered the sixth sense of the small universe. He needed a calm practice environment. Even if they defeated the other party, it would still cause countless troubles. It was a god. Only a small part of his power has been restored, and he is so powerful. Locke sighed in his heart as he felt the great pressure from Asclepius. He didn't know when he would be able to light up the seventh star and enter the seventh sense of the small universe. In the sixth sense of the small universe, his strength should be equivalent to level 1 to level 3 practitioners in this world. Maybe he could deal with the practitioners from level 4 to level 6 after entering the seventh sense. Even without the help of Athena and others, with the power of the seventh sense, he might be able to do whatever in Naden County. Thinking of this, Locke couldn't help feeling happy. Of course, Locke wouldn't be satisfied to dominate this small Naden County. In Icacia continent, there were hundreds of countries like Grim Kingdom, and there were more than 10 countries that were several times stronger than Grim Kingdom. Naden County, like the dust in the air, was not conspicuous. His goal was the peak of this continent. It was even a more powerful and mysterious god world. Locke took a deep breath and came back to his senses. These were too far for him. He'd better continue to work on practice and find a way to enter the seventh sense as soon as possible. At the moment when the power of Asclepius erupted, in Icacia continent, several powerful practitioners were awakened from practice. Shoop, shoop. 2 figures stood 10,000 meters high in the sky. "Old man, did you also feel it?" The old man in the black magic robe said in a low voice, staring at the north. This was the second time they had felt this mysterious power. This power was very similar to the aura of gods. Was there a god coming? Or did someone touch the god's level? Unfortunately, the time was too short to reach perception. "I'm afraid it's not just us." The middle-aged man with a long sword on his back stared at the north with a serious expression. The old man nodded. In just a few seconds, he had already felt more than 5 familiar auras. Icacia continent has been silent for thousands of years. It seems that it will be lively again. Looking at the north, the old man sighed. The middle-aged man nodded slightly, and then said regretfully, "It's a pity that we don't have the chance to see the other party. Otherwise, we might be able to obtain some information about the divine realm." Ellipsis. A few days later, Lister regained its original order. A team of 7 people was moving forward more than 100 miles away from Lister. The 7 of them dressed like bandits. What the hell? This place is so remote that there is even no teleportation site. A young man with a sword complained. After complaining, the young man looked at the expressionless middle-aged man in front of them and said, "Monroe, just a loser Baron. Do we really need to make such a big move? Yes, there are 7 level 2 practitioners in our team. Do we overestimate the other party?" Another strong man who was drinking echoed. "You should ask Sir Count about this." Glancing at the two of them, Monroe replied indifferently. Hearing Monroe mention Count Brandon, the two men smiled awkwardly and stopped talking. Seeing that the two of them stopped, Monroe turned around and warned, "Sir Count takes Lister seriously. You'd better be serious. If you screw it up, Sir Count won't spare you." "Yes, we understand." The young man chuckled, but it seemed that he still didn't take Monroe's warning seriously. It took the 7 of them a day to get to Lister. Is this Lister? Looking at the lush and vibrant environment in front of him, Monroe was a little surprised. It felt as if you had been walking in the desert and suddenly encountered an oasis, which was amazing. He found that although the density of the magic element in Lister was not as strong as that of St. Ribuhay City, it had exceeded most of the areas along the way. Wasn't Lister a barren land? How could there be such a level of the magic element? Was it because of the black iron mine? But I hadn't heard that the iron mine could increase the density of the magic element. It seemed that Lister still had a lot of secrets. After he took it, he had to investigate it carefully. Monroe thought to himself. Remember, don't expose yourself at any time. Monroe reminded the 6 people behind him. Stop. Who are you? Just as Monroe and the others were about to move on, Curtin shouted coldly. At the same time, 5 or 6 guards rushed out with weapons. This is Lister. You can't get in with arms without the order of Lord. Curtin warned loudly with a weapon in his hand. At this time, he had already gathered highly spirit, carefully guarding against Monroe and the others. He felt a sense of danger from these 7 people dressed as bandits, especially from Monroe who was in the front. He felt a strong pressure. Taking a look at Curtin, Monroe didn't even have the desire to make a move. He directly ordered the young man behind him, "A level 1 knight, Vernal, I'll leave him to you to warm up." "Okay." With an evil smile on his face, Vernal hacked at Curtin directly. So fast. Seeing Vernal already in front of him for a breath, Curtin's face changed drastically, and he hurriedly raised his sword to resist. Clang tilde. Since his blow was blocked, Vernal was not in a hurry. He shook his head and sighed with dissatisfaction, a little weak. As he spoke, his face darkened. He condensed fighting spirit in his palm and slapped directly at Curtin. Bang tilde. Curtin flew down from the horse and smashed into the distance. Puff tilde. Curtin spat out a mouthful of blood and couldn't get up under this blow. Vernal jumped off the horse, wiped his long sword with one hand, and walked towards Curtin. "Well, I won't play anymore. Let me send you to hell." The other guards were not even a match for Vernal. They were hit away directly. "Dear Master Locke, I will serve you again in my next life." Curtin smiled bitterly and closed his eyes slowly, seeing Vernal coming towards him. Bang tilde. With a loud noise, Curtin's eyelids trembled. Was I dead? Why didn't I feel pain? "Curtin, it seems that you don't need the next life temporarily." A familiar voice teased. Curtin opened his eyes and saw Locke looking at him with a smile, while Vernal had been thrown backward and hit a stone in the distance. He spat out blood and completely lost his fighting ability. "Leave it to me." After saying that, Locke turned around and looked in the direction of Monroe and others. His eyes suddenly became cold. Fortunately, Athena told him that something was wrong, or Curtin would have died here. "Are you Locke Capet?" Monroe looked at Locke with a serious look on his face. He knew Vernal's strength well and it would take some time even for him to win the competition with Vernal. But now, Vernal was defeated by Locke in one move. The others were also shocked to see this incredible scene. A loser in rumors had defeated a level 2 swordsman with just one move. "No matter who you are, since you dare to invade my territory, you must pay the price with your lives." Looking at them, Locke said with clear killing intention. The small universe in his body had been completely stabilized at the middle stage of the 6th sense. He was absolutely invincible among level 2 practitioners. At this time, Cotter and the others had also surrounded them. A few retinues lifted Curtin and a few injured people up and quickly sent them to Asclepius for treatment. "You go back to a safe place," Locke said directly to Cotter and the others without looking back. Only Cotter was the level 2 knight, and the others basically had no power to fight back in the face of the enemy. If they stayed here, there would be more casualties. Although Cotter was worried about Locke, he didn't disobey Locke's order and retreated with his men. You want to deal with all of us alone. Monroe thought Locke was crazy and arrogant. Did he think that he would be invincible after defeating a level 2 swordsman? Boy, I will break your bones. Tut, tut, how dare you dream of stopping 6 level 2 practitioners alone. You are courting death. All newest chapters on no.velb.com. The crowd of level 2 practitioners behind Monroe also burst into laughter. Since you want to die first, I'll fulfill your wish. Earth Blade. With a sneer, he waved the magic wand. Monroe directly used the level 2 Earth attack magic, Earth Blade. Shoop tilde. Blades condensed by the earth pierced out from the ground one by one. Locke's body spun and jumped up. He quickly retreated and avoided all the sharp blades. Now let me show you my magic. Dodging Monroe's attack, Locke condensed a fireball in his hand directly. Fireball spell. No, why was his fireball red? Looking at the fireball in Locke's hand, Monroe trembled and cried out with his eyes wide open. This loser has actually become a mage. When the people behind Monroe saw that Locke used the fireball spell, the mocking expression on their faces suddenly froze. Didn't they say that Locke Capet couldn't become a mage without magic talent? While Monroe and the others were still in shock, the fireball in Locke's hand had been thrown in their direction. So what if you become a level 1 mage? I'm a level 2 mage. Although Monroe didn't know why the color of Locke's fireball was different, at the thought of his identity as a level 2 mage, Monroe was full of confidence. He waved the magic wand and a yellow shield suddenly appeared in front of him. Boom! The red fireball hit the shield. Bang! The violent fire element exploded directly at the shield, but the defense of the earth magic was very strong. Under the explosion, the color of the shield only dimmed a little. It was so powerful. Although Monroe blocked Locke's fireball, he was still shocked by the power of the fireball spell. This might be as powerful as the level 2 fire magic attack. Capet, I admit that I underestimated you before. I didn't expect you to use such a powerful fireball spell. Staring at Locke, Monroe took a deep breath. After exclaiming, he sneered and slowly analyzed, but this kind of attack must consume a lot of magic energy. You can't release it a few times, or the magic power will soon dry up. Magic power dried up. Locke looked at Monroe sarcastically and threw another fireball out. Boom! The fireball hit the shield, making it a little dim. When Monroe thought it was over, he saw another fireball in Locke's hand. This must be the last time. Capet was just bluffing. There must be not much magic element left in his body. Gritting his teeth, Monroe quickly injected the earth magic element into the shield. Boom! Another 2 fireballs hit Monroe's shield continuously. Why? This was the 5th one. Wouldn't Capet's magic power be exhausted? Seeing that Locke was still condensing the fireball, he roared in his heart and felt endless grievance. How could the dignified level 2 mage be beaten by a level 1 mage easily? Moreover, if Locke continued to attack him like this, he would lose sooner or later. However, he had no choice. Locke didn't give him any chance to release other magic. A warrior behind Monroe wanted to help but was forced back by Locke's fireball. At last, he had to hide behind Monroe. Boom! Puff! The 8th fireball hit Monroe, and he was directly thrown away by the strong impact. The black horse under Monroe's body was directly burned to ashes by the fireball spell, and the other 2 practitioners, who were close to him, were also directly thrown out by the huge shock wave. Master Locke, you are so strong now. Watching the explosion, Cotter felt his throat dry. His body trembled slightly, and the excitement in his heart was beyond words. On the other side, Locke didn't relax his vigilance after knocking Monroe. He knew that the fireball spell didn't directly concentrate on Monroe, so Monroe couldn't be killed by him. Sure enough, Monroe covered his chest and got up from the ground. He stared at Locke, his eyes filled with fear. The situation has changed. Don't hold back. Let's kill him together. Picking up the magic wand on the ground, Monroe shouted in horror. However, the others looked at each other and could see that they had a hint of retreat. Noticing that the others didn't take action immediately but looked at Locke with fear, Monroe shouted. He's just a mage. He defeated Vernal with a sneak attack just now. He's not strong in a close battle. I'll use magic to pin him down, and you'll wait for an opportunity to rush forward. While Speaking, Monroe waved the magic wand and mobilized the magic element in his body. The earth in front of him began to tremble and several sharp stone awls were quickly condensed. Whoosh tilde. The stone awl dashed towards Locke. Yes, he had 6 level 2 practitioners. No matter how strong the opponent was, it was only the mage of level 1. Could he be invincible? Thinking of this, the rest of them finally regained their morale and rushed towards Locke. Seeing the 5 people coming at him, Locke didn't panic. He quickly condensed a fireball and threw it at the stone awl. Bang tilde. The fireball and the stone awl exploded in the air. At the same time, 2 warriors had rushed to Locke. Watch out, Master Locke. Cotter shouted, whose heart was in his throat. The crowd behind him clenched their fists and felt nervous. Monroe heaved a sigh of relief when he saw his men had rushed in front of Locke. When a mage was approached by warriors, he was in danger. Looking at warriors, who were less than 2 meters away from him, Locke raised the corners of his mouth and slowly raised his right hand. A faint blue light flashed in his palm. Something was wrong. The 2 warriors instinctively felt a little dangerous. Hurry up. Kill him. One of the warriors roared. The speed was even faster, and he slammed into Locke with a punch. He was confident that he could smash Locke into the meatloaf with one punch. However, he was still a step slower. A blue light quickly enlarged in his eyes. Boom. The man was directly exploded into pieces by the waterball spell. After taking care of one of them, Locke drew his long sword from his waist and hacked at the other. Bang tilde. The other one was shocked. Now seeing Locke coming at him again, he was almost scared to death. He didn't even have time to run for his life, so he didn't have the mood to continue attacking. In a hurry, he was even no match for Locke. He was killed by Locke in a few moves. The waterball spell. Monroe felt his heart beat violently, and his brain was buzzing. He was a little numb. A 2-typed mage. A loser not only had a body comparable to a warrior but also became a mage. More horribly, he was a 2-typed mage. Should this really exist? The other 2 practitioners, who came with Monroe, looked pale. Seeing their companions die like this, they had no intention of continuing to fight. They looked at each other and seemed to have made up their mind. The 2 of them jumped on the back of the horse and rode it to run away. Follow newest stories at noteVL.com. You still want to leave when you are here? Locke sneered and 2 small balls appeared in his hands, a blue one and a red one. Then he aimed at the targets and threw them out. Boom. With 2 loud sounds, 2 big holes appeared on the positions where the practitioners fled, and their bodies were torn into pieces by the violent magic element. It's over. Seeing that the last 2 people were dead, Monroe's face was as pale as death, and he directly collapsed to the ground. Now that so many of them had been defeated, he was even more unlikely to be a match for Locke. Next, it's time to kill you. With a murderous look on his face, Locke walked towards Monroe with a sword in his hand. Sizz tilde. The tip of the long sword drew a burst of sparks on the ground. Thump. Hearing the harsh sound of the long sword rubbing the ground, Monroe knelt directly and said in a trembling voice, Sir Capet, I'm willing to report a piece of precious news. Please forgive me for my life. Pride and dignity were nothing in front of a life threat. It was not easy for him to reach a level 2 mage from practice. He still had a lot of good time to enjoy. He didn't want to die now. Oh, tell me. I'll see if it can exchange your life. In front of Monroe, Locke stopped and didn't take action immediately. He could tell that Monroe and the others were not bandits. After all, no group of bandits could have such powerful strength. So now he was very curious about which force had been making trouble for him. Seeing that he seemed to have a chance to live, the fear on Monroe's face decreased a little. He quickly said, there is an iron mine on the mountain north of Lister. The Black Iron Mine. Even Locke was surprised to hear the words, Black Iron Mine. He knew about the black iron ore. It was a good kind of ore used to make weapons. The appearance of the Black Iron Mine was often accompanied by a bloody scramble. After all, a black iron mine meant a huge amount of wealth. Locke didn't get dizzy by the unexpected fortune. He raised his long sword and said indifferently, your life is in my hands now. You have to think clearly about the consequences of lying to me. There was no residential area in the mountains in the north of Lister, so he only looked at it carelessly before. It was a deserted land. I promise. What I said is true. Seeing Locke holding a long sword, Monroe trembled and promised loudly. It seemed that the man didn't lie to him. Looking at Monroe's frightened expression, Locke almost believed him. Locke asked slowly, "Now, it's time to tell me which force you come from." "I'm a member of the Brandon family. This land was originally chosen by Count Brandon. However, your father intervened. We were ordered by Count Brandon to disguise as bandits to destroy you and take over Lister." In the face of the danger of his life, Monroe spoke out everything he knew without reservation. It turned out that after knowing that Lister owned the Black Iron Mine, Count Brandon didn't want to alert anyone. He planned to get this territory to himself secretly, but he didn't expect that Locke's father took a step ahead and made it the territory of Locke. In fact, both Black Rock bandits and Osborne bandits were tools for the Brandon family to collect wealth. If a barren and remote territory was occupied by the bandits, not many people would care about it. Next, Count Brandon would send an army to annihilate the bandits and accept Lister openly. However, who would have thought that the Black Rock bandits and Osborne bandits would be killed by a person who was called a loser? Updated from N0 Velbin. Company per meter. After saying that, Monroe closed his mouth. He was not stupid. He did not threaten Locke with the Brandon family. He was very clear that it was completely stupid to provoke the other party at this time. However, Count Brandon would soon know the situation here, and he would send stronger people there. When the people of Sir Count came over, Locke Caput, "I must wash away today's shame." Although Monroe thought so, he didn't dare to show it. He carefully observed Locke's expression, fearing that Locke would regret and end his life with a sword strike. The Brandon family. Locke recalled the information of the Brandon family in his mind. The Brandon family was also a Count-level force, but as one of the top forces in Naden County, it was far from something the Caput family could compare with. In a word, the two families were not at the same level. Humph. Even if Monroe was from the Brandon family, he should be prepared to pay the price for hitting him. Locke sneered in his heart, with a murderous look in his eyes. "Guards, take him down. If you find out what tricks he dares to play, kill him directly." Locke didn't plan to kill Monroe. After all, Monroe was a level 2 mage, so it might be useful. Cotter and the others also came over from afar and grabbed Monroe from the ground. After sending someone to take Monroe out, Locke went to check the injuries of Curtin and others. To their surprise, when they rushed back, the wounds of Curtin and other people had healed. "Mr. Asclepius, are you a noble healer?" Asclepius nodded with a smile, sort of. After regaining some of his divine power, he could directly use healing skills. According to the understanding of this world, he should be considered a healer. Mr. Asclepius was a healer. Creator. How stupid we were to doubt his medical skills. Cotter and the others were very shocked. First Miss Athena, and now Mr. Asclepius. Where did Master Locke find these two horrible people? Master Locke and Mr. Asclepius, we leave first, please excuse us. Seeing that Curtin was safe and sound, Cotter felt relieved and left respectfully. It seemed that Asclepius needed to train a few healers for his territory. In the future, there would be more and more residents in Lister. It was inappropriate to ask Asclepius to cure everything in person. Watching receding figures of Cotter and the others, Locke suddenly came up with this idea. Ding tilde trigger the system task. Task. Train 4 healers. Task reward. It will be distributed according to the completion of the task. Just as Locke was thinking about this, the voice of the system came through. It was a huge project to train healers. A healer should first have the wood magic talent, and at the same time learn the relevant magic of the healer. However, since there was the system task, no matter how difficult it was, he had to complete it. Locke made up his mind. After all, the reward given by the system had never let him down. After Cotter and the others left, Locke told Asclepius that he wanted to train healers. Asclepius' eyes lit up and he stroked the beard on his chin. When the healers are trained, I'll have more time to study the pharmacopoeia, too. After a moment of contemplation, he continued, I will first select a few children among the territory and teach them to know the medicinal materials and familiarize themselves with medicinal theory. But you also know that my practice method is not suitable for them, so you need to solve the practice method of healers in this world. No problem. I'll take care of the practice method of healers. Locke nodded with a smile. There was no practice method of healers in his territory, so he planned to go to the Bone City to have a look. However, the most important thing right now was the Black Iron Mine. If it really existed, then he wouldn't have to worry about gold coins in the future. After thinking for a while, Locke decided to find Athena. Seeing that Athena was reading a book on the wall, Locke asked, "I heard from the mage that there is a black iron mine hidden in the mountains in the north of the territory. I'm going to have a look. Would you like to go with me? I've read a book for so long. Just take it as stretching my body." Athena closed the book in her hand and stretched herself leisurely. Then she stood up and said, "Let's go." A gentle breeze blew a few strands of hair at the girl's temples. When Athena stretched herself, her curvaceous figure made Locke's heart beat faster. Looking at Athena's back, Locke smiled helplessly. Athena was getting more and more casual in front of him. Arp Mountains were located in the west of Lister. It was a range of deserted mountains. Most of the mountains were covered with snow that didn't melt all year round. From the mountainsides to the foot of the mountains, there were spruce forests. Although these spruce forests were not as vast and boundless as the primeval forests, there were also many wild animals hidden within them and even magical beasts. If one was not careful, he would be in danger. Compared with other places, the environment here was much worse, so the residents of Lister seldom came here. Looking at the mountain range in front of him, Locke couldn't help but doubt, is there really a black iron mine in this mountain range? In the depths of the mountains, I felt a kind of strange stones. This should be the black iron ore you mentioned, right? Her eyes retreated from the mountains. Athena turned to Locke and said. As Arp Mountains were located on the border of Lister, she didn't pay much attention to it. Just now, she checked it carefully and found that there were indeed some different rocks on the ground. It seems that there are some black iron ores. We are going to make a fortune. Hearing Athena's words, Locke couldn't wait any longer. He jumped off the horse and said, "The road in the mountain forest is rugged, and the horses are not suitable for walking. It seems that we need to walk in." As he spoke, he had tied the horse to the tree. Looking at Locke's greedy face, Athena smiled speechlessly. "Look at you, it's just a kind of ores. You say it easily. You are not the lord and don't need to worry about the expenses of the territory." Locke retorted unconvincingly, pouting. Soon, the two tied up the horses and were ready to set off. "Wait, I have a faster way." Locke had just taken 2 steps when he was stopped by Athena. "What is the method?" Locke turned his head in confusion. When he saw the sly smile on Athena's face, he suddenly had a bad feeling in his mind. The next moment, he felt a burst of huge divine power enveloping his body. Then, a strong sense of weightlessness came. When he came to his senses, he was more than 10 meters away from the ground. I'm flying." Looking at the more distant ground, Locke's voice was trembling lightly. He couldn't believe it. "I'm a god. Isn't it normal for me to know how to fly?" Looking at Locke's frightened face, Athena asked with a light smile. "Why didn't you tell me that you could fly in the air? Have you ever asked Locke?" Half an hour later. Puff tilde. The two fell to the ground and stepped on it again. Feeling the soft touch from the ground, Locke breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, his face was a little pale. It was still a little scary in the air of dozens of meters. Although he had taken a plane in his previous life, it was completely different now. There was nothing under his feet during the whole process, as if he was stepping on the air, giving him a sense of fear that he would fall at any time. After taking a few deep breaths, Locke's pale face finally recovered a little. "Have we arrived?" Locke looked around curiously but found no traces of ores around. "There is still some distance, but there is an interesting thing here." Athena looked ahead as if she had found something interesting. Howl tilde. Just as Locke was thinking about what Athena meant by the last sentence, he heard a wolf howl. A magical beast. Locke didn't hesitate. The fireball spell in his hand had taken shape. When he was about to throw the fireball spell out, Athena reached out her hand to stop him. Seeing this, Locke scattered the fireball spell in his hand. Since Athena thought it was okay, he didn't have to do that. A few seconds later, a huge silver-white figure appeared in front of the two. Looking at this sudden appearance of the magical beast, Locke was slightly stunned, his face a little surprised. This is the same Ice Wolf King that attacked the carriage when he first arrived in Lister. However, Locke sensed a stronger aura than before from the Ice Wolf King. Did this Ice Wolf King become a level 2 magical beast? This Ice Wolf King has a special bloodline. Looking at the Ice Wolf King, Athena analyzed, there seems to be an ancient power in his blood. It should be the blood power. Called in this world, Locke was shocked by Athena's explanation. Wasn't the blood power only available to the powerful races passed down from ancient times? For example, the dragon race, demon giant beast, phoenix, and other powerful races. This ice wolf in front of him also had the blood power. When Locke was amazed, the Ice Wolf King stared at Athena with a hint of humane fear in his big eyes. Looking at the Ice Wolf King, Locke couldn't help laughing. It seemed that the Ice Wolf King in front of him was scared by Athena's attack. There seemed to be a flash of struggle in the eyes of the Ice Wolf King. Then he slowly walked towards Locke and Athena as if he had made up his mind. What does he want to do? Locke was confused. It seemed that the Ice Wolf King was not going to attack the two of them. However, the small universe in his body still started to revolve, secretly mobilizing the divine power to prevent the sudden attack of the Ice Wolf King. Updated chapters on novel.com. Under Locke's confused gaze, the Ice Wolf King approached the two of them. To Locke's surprise, the Ice Wolf King stopped 2 meters away from them and began to growl. In that voice, Locke seemed to hear a hint of flattery. Yes, the Ice Wolf King was flattering them. Do you want to follow us? Looking at the Ice Wolf King, Athena asked. The Ice Wolf King nodded quickly and then whispered twice in a flattering way. How could Ice Wolf King be so intelligent? Locke felt a little curious. Normally, before level 4, the magical beasts had some intelligence, but they were still unable to think like humans. Their intelligence was equivalent to a child of 7 or 8 years old. Only when they reached level 4 and the brains of magical beasts had been completely developed. It was said that level 8 magical beasts could transform into humans. I can't make a decision. This is his place. You need to ask him. Athena shook her head with a smile and looked at Locke. Ask me. Locke was speechless. This kind of thing didn't need to ask him. Moreover, Athena should already know how he would choose. Hearing Athena's words, the Ice Wolf King turned his head to Locke, with obvious flattery in his big eyes. Of course, Locke was looking forward to having a level 2 magical beast in his side. You can follow us. Locke nodded and reminded, but you can't kill anyone after arriving in the territory, okay? Hearing Locke's words, the Ice Wolf King let out a joyful groan and nodded his head quickly. Locke found that the Ice Wolf King was quite cute. Since the Ice Wolf King had lived here for so long, he should know where the Black Iron Mine was. Thinking of this, Locke asked the Ice Wolf King, "We are looking for the Black Iron Mine. Do you know where it is?" But Locke found that he was wrong. The Ice Wolf King looked at him in confusion, as if he didn't know what the Black Iron Mine was. Seeing that Locke and the Ice Wolf King were staring at each other, Athena smiled helplessly, left them behind, and walked deep into the mountains. The Black Iron Mine you mentioned should be in front of us. Let's continue walking. Chapter 37 found the mineral resources and called the third god. The two and a wolf continued to walk into the depths of the mountain range. The jungle became low and finally disappeared. A scene full of black gravels appeared in front of Locke and the others. To everyone's surprise, the gravels were not ordinary rocks. They were sharp edges, and they were black crystal stones that had been smashed, reflecting a deep luster in the sun. It was an open-air mine. Locke trotted over and picked up a crystal-like ore. Feeling the coldness from the ore, he breathed more heavily. Yes, this was the appearance of the black iron ore he had seen on the books. It's really the Black Iron Mine. Holding the ore, Locke shouted as he waved at Athena behind him with an excited expression. Athena also walked up slowly and looked at the ores in Locke's hands. The Ice Wolf King tilted his head and sniffed at an ore on the ground. Then he walked away in disgust. Seeing Locke holding the ore excitedly, his eyes revealed a kind of humanized doubt. Was the man stupid? Locke held a stone and giggled. I have detected that host has obtained a Black Iron Mine. Congratulations to host for obtaining a summon card. The familiar cold voice of the system came to Locke's mind again. An opportunity to summon. Was this double happiness? Looking at the summoning card in the system zone, Locke was extremely excited. Without hesitation, he took out the summoning card and was ready to summon. Seeing that Locke took out a mysterious card, Athena seemed to have guessed something. She stared at the card quietly with a curious expression. With Locke's click, the summoning card trembled slightly, and the light door appeared in front of Locke for the third time. Is this the door of summoning? Staring at the light door, Athena's face changed slightly, and a strange light flashed in her beautiful eyes. The power of summoning gods at will might have surpassed Zeus, the king of gods. The universe was vast and boundless, and there were indeed more mysterious and powerful existences. Divine light full of the light door, a tall figure stepped out. A few seconds later, a muscular man with a giant hammer appeared in front of the two men and a wolf. The strong man looked around in surprise. God of forging, Hephaestus. Looking at the strong man, Athena called out his name. Athena. Hearing that, Hephaestus's face froze. He was surprised to meet an acquaintance. He put the hammer on his shoulder and smiled. It seems that I'm not the first person to come here. Locke didn't expect that he would summon the god of forging, Hephaestus, this time. Wow, it's the system, what I lack comes. The joy in Locke's heart was indescribable. He restrained his excitement and greeted with a smile, "Hello, Hephaestus. I'm Locke Capet." When Hephaestus walked towards Locke, he shook slightly as if he was limping, but it didn't affect his speed at all. Locke. Curiously looking at Locke from head to toe, Hephaestus smiled and reached out his hand. "Hello, Locke." After greeting Locke, Hephaestus waved at Ice Wolf King and said, "Hello." The Ice Wolf King looked at Hephaestus with a little fear. He also felt a threatening aura from Hephaestus. Seeing Hephaestus greeting him, the Ice Wolf King responded with a low voice. Locke felt funny when he saw Hephaestus greeting the Ice Wolf King. This god of forging seemed to be more enthusiastic than Asclepius. Hephaestus picked up the black iron ore on the ground, nodded, and said with satisfaction, "Well, not bad. There are ores that can be used to forge here. Although the quality is a little poor, they can still make a lot of things." Locke finally realized that this god of forging was really obsessed with refining skills. "Since we have found the location of the ores, let's go back first. I'll arrange for someone to mine." Looking at Athena and the newly summoned Hephaestus, Locke suggested with a smile. Athena nodded in agreement. Then she looked at Hephaestus and the Ice Wolf King and said with a faint smile, "You two, go back by yourselves." After saying that, Athena and Locke turned into a beam of light and flew towards the direction they came. Although the divine power in my body is not strong, it is still possible to follow them. Looking in the direction where Athena and Locke disappeared, Hephaestus turned to the Ice Wolf King and said, "Then I'm leaving now. You go back alone." After saying that, Hephaestus floated up and flew in the direction of Athena. Seeing that everyone had left, the Ice Wolf King began to run wildly. Although there were many stone bushes in the forest, they did not affect the speed of the Ice Wolf King at all. In a few breaths, the Ice Wolf King had disappeared from the open space and entered the forest. In midair, Locke opened the attribute panel. Host: Locke Capet. Race: human race. Binding identity: Lord of Lister. Profession: divinity practitioner. Level: the sixth sense. Summoning God 1, Athena. Fondness: friendly 20. Faith point: 180. Summoning God 2, Asclepius. Fondness: normal 60. Faith point: it can be opened after the establishment of the divine temple. Summoning God 3, Hephaestus. Fondness: neutral 0. Faith point: it can be opened after the establishment of the divine temple. Unknowingly, there were already 3 gods. Looking at the gradually enriched attribute panel, Locke was in a good mood. In about 40 minutes, Locke and Athena arrived at the place where they had tied the horses. A few minutes later, Hephaestus also arrived. To Locke's surprise, the speed of the Ice Wolf King was also quite fast, but less than 10 minutes behind them. As soon as the Ice Wolf King appeared, the 2 horses became restless. Although the Ice Wolf King had restrained his hostility, the natural pressure brought by the level 2 magical beast still made the 2 black horses jump uneasily. If they flew over like this, the residents of Lister would be scared to death. Therefore, the 3 of them decided to choose a low profile. The Ice Wolf King naturally became one of the riders. Just as the 3 of them were discussing who would ride the Ice Wolf King, the Ice Wolf King took a weak look at Hephaestus and moved closer to Locke and Athena. "It seems that I can only ride a horse." Seeing the Ice Wolf King's expression, Hephaestus shrugged his shoulders and seemed to have some regrets. And Athena seemed to prefer riding the horse, so only Locke was left. The Ice Wolf King squatted down obediently to let Locke sit on him. Locke found that riding on the Ice Wolf King didn't make him uncomfortable as he thought it would be. "Let's go." Riding on the Ice Wolf King, Locke felt a little proud suddenly in his mind. The Ice Wolf King roared and ran towards Lister. Howled Tilda. A howl of a wolf passed through the buildings and spread in the residential area of Lister. Damn it. Wolves are coming to attack our territory. The expression on Cotter's face changed and he rushed out with his big sword. Judging from the wolves howling just now, the strength of the wolves coming this time was much stronger than last time. In addition to Cotter, Curtin and the others also rushed towards the wolf howl with weapons. Click tilde click tilde. It was getting closer. Hearing the sound of sharp claws rubbing against the ground from afar, Cotter and the others couldn't help but tighten their grip on their weapons. They are coming, Cotter reminded Curtin and others. At dusk, a vigorous figure rushed to the residence area of Lister. Something is wrong. Looking at the figure of the giant wolf, Cotter narrowed his eyes and seemed to see something incredible. On the back of the giant wolf, there seemed to be a familiar figure. The moment they saw the figure clearly, both the guards including Cotter and the residents who came to help with defense were completely petrified. The two and a wolf continued to walk into the depths of the mountain range. The jungle became low and finally disappeared. A scene full of black gravels appeared in front of Locke and the others. To everyone's surprise, the gravels were not ordinary rocks. They were sharp edges, and they were black crystal stones that had been smashed, reflecting a deep luster in the sun. It was an open-air mine. Locke trotted over and picked up a crystal-like ore. Feeling the coldness from the ore, he breathed more heavily. Yes, this was the appearance of the black iron ore he had seen on the books. It's really the black iron mine. Holding the ore, Locke shouted as he waved at Athena behind him with an excited expression. Athena also walked up slowly and looked at the ores in Locke's hands. The Ice Wolf King tilted his head and sniffed at an ore on the ground. Then he walked away in disgust. Seeing Locke holding the ore excitedly, his eyes revealed a kind of humanized doubt. Was the man stupid? Locke held a stone and giggled. Ding tilde I have detected that host has obtained a black iron mine. Congratulations to host for obtaining a summon card. The familiar cold voice of the system came to Locke's mind again. An opportunity to summon. Was this double happiness? Looking at the summoning card in the system zone, Locke was extremely excited. Without hesitation, he took out the summoning card and was ready to summon. Seeing that Locke took out a mysterious card, Athena seemed to have guessed something. She stared at the card quietly with a curious expression. With Locke's click, the summoning card trembled slightly, and the light door appeared in front of Locke for the third time. Is this the door of summoning? Staring at the light door, Athena's face changed slightly, and a strange light flashed in her beautiful eyes. The power of summoning gods at will might have surpassed Zeus, the king of gods. The universe was vast and boundless, and there were indeed more mysterious and powerful existences. Divine light full of the light door, a tall figure stepped out. A few seconds later, a muscular man with a giant hammer appeared in front of the two men and a wolf. The strong man looked around in surprise. God of forging, Hephaestus. Looking at the strong man, Athena called out his name. Athena. Hearing that, Hephaestus's face froze. He was surprised to meet an acquaintance. He put the hammer on his shoulder and smiled. It seems that I'm not the first person to come here. Locke didn't expect that he would summon the god of forging, Hephaestus, this time. Wow, it's the system, what I lack comes. Up-to-dated novels on novel.com. The joy in Locke's heart was indescribable. He restrained his excitement and greeted with a smile, hello, Hephaestus. I'm Locke Caput. When Hephaestus walked towards Locke, he shook slightly as if he was limping, but it didn't affect his speed at all. Locke. Curiously looking at Locke from head to toe, Hephaestus smiled and reached out his hand. Hello, Locke. After greeting Locke, Hephaestus waved at Ice Wolf King and said, hello. The Ice Wolf King looked at Hephaestus with a little fear. He also felt a threatening aura from Hephaestus. Seeing Hephaestus greeting him, the Ice Wolf King responded with a low voice. Locke felt funny when he saw Hephaestus greeting the Ice Wolf King. This god of forging seemed to be more enthusiastic than Asclepius. Hephaestus picked up the black iron ore on the ground, nodded, and said with satisfaction, well, not bad. There are ores that can be used to forge here. Although the quality is a little poor, they can still make a lot of things. Locke finally realized that this god of forging was really obsessed with refining skills. Since we have found the location of the ores, let's go back first. I'll arrange for someone to mine. Looking at Athena and the newly summoned Hephaestus, Locke suggested with a smile. Athena nodded in agreement. Then she looked at Hephaestus and the Ice Wolf King and said with a faint smile, "You two, go back by yourselves." After saying that, Athena and Locke turned into a beam of light and flew towards the direction they came. Although the divine power in my body is not strong, it is still possible to follow them. Looking in the direction where Athena and Locke disappeared, Hephaestus turned to the Ice Wolf King and said, "Then I'm leaving now. You go back alone." After saying that, Hephaestus floated up and flew in the direction of Athena. Seeing that everyone had left, the Ice Wolf King began to run wildly. Although there were many stone bushes in the forest, they did not affect the speed of the Ice Wolf King at all. In a few breaths, the Ice Wolf King had disappeared from the open space and entered the forest. In midair, Locke opened the attribute panel. Host: Locke Caput. Race: human race. Binding identity: Lord of Lister. Profession: divinity practitioner. Level: the sixth sense. Summoning God 1, Athena. Fondness: friendly 20. Faith point: 180. Summoning God 2, Asclepius. Fondness: normal 60. Faith point: it can be opened after the establishment of the divine temple. Summoning God 3, Hephaestus. Fondness: neutral 0. Faith point: it can be opened after the establishment of the divine temple. Unknowingly, there were already 3 gods. Looking at the gradually enriched attribute panel, Locke was in a good mood. In about 40 minutes, Locke and Athena arrived at the place where they had tied the horses. A few minutes later, Hephaestus also arrived. To Locke's surprise, the speed of the Ice Wolf King was also quite fast, but less than 10 minutes behind them. As soon as the Ice Wolf King appeared, the 2 horses became restless. Although the Ice Wolf King had restrained his hostility, the natural pressure brought by the level 2 magical beast still made the 2 black horses jump uneasily. If they flew over like this, the residents of Lister would be scared to death. Therefore, the 3 of them decided to choose a low profile. The Ice Wolf King naturally became one of the riders. Just as the 3 of them were discussing who would ride the Ice Wolf King, the Ice Wolf King took a weak look at Hephaestus and moved closer to Locke and Athena. "It seems that I can only ride a horse." Seeing the Ice Wolf King's expression, Hephaestus shrugged his shoulders and seemed to have some regrets. And Athena seemed to prefer riding the horse, so only Locke was left. The Ice Wolf King squatted down obediently to let Locke sit on him. Locke found that riding on the Ice Wolf King didn't make him uncomfortable as he thought it would be. "Let's go." Riding on the Ice Wolf King, Locke felt a little proud suddenly in his mind. The Ice Wolf King roared and ran towards Lister. Howl tilde. A howl of a wolf passed through the buildings and spread in the residential area of Lister. "Damn it. Wolves are coming to attack our territory." The expression on Cotter's face changed and he rushed out with his bid sword. Judging from the wolves howling just now, the strength of the wolves coming this time was much stronger than last time. In addition to Cotter, Curtin and the others also rushed towards the wolf howl with weapons. Click tilde click tilde. It was getting closer. Hearing the sound of sharp claws rubbing against the ground from afar, Cotter and the others couldn't help but tighten their grip on their weapons. "They are coming," Cotter reminded Curtin and others. At dusk, a vigorous figure rushed to the residence area of Lister. "Something is wrong." Looking at the figure of the giant wolf, Cotter narrowed his eyes and seemed to see something incredible. On the back of the giant wolf, there seemed to be a familiar figure. The moment they saw the figure clearly, both the guards, including Cotter and the residents who came to help with defense, were completely petrified. Locke jumped off the Ice Wolf King. Seeing that Cotter and the others were ready to face a formidable enemy, he said helplessly, "Restrain yourself. You made such a big noise." The Ice Wolf King let out a low cry as if he had acknowledged his mistake. On the other side, Cotter and the others all took a deep breath and looked at Locke and Ice Wolf King in disbelief. When did the level 2 magical beast become so obedient and easygoing? At this time, their minds were full of questions. "Can't you recognize me?" Locke made fun of them when he saw that they were stunned and didn't respond for a long time. "Master Locke, this Ice Wolf King." Cotter stared at the Ice Wolf King nervously, fearing that the Ice Wolf King would burst out and hurt people. Cotter felt a strong sense of threat from the Wolf King. He was very clear that although they both were at level 2, he was definitely not a match for the Ice Wolf King. "I met him in the jungle with Athena. Now he has surrendered to us." Locke patted the Ice Wolf King's head and explained with a smile. After saying that, he said to Cotter, "From now on, she will be the guardian magical beast of our territory." Surrendered. Guardian magical beast. Looking at the Ice Wolf King standing honestly at the side, Cotter and the others were all shocked. Master Locke subdued the magical beast of level 2. There is actually a magical beast of level 2 in Lister. The level 2 magical beast is also our guardian magical beast. Ellipsis. Lister's residents felt a little unreal suddenly. Just as everyone was excited, another sound of hoofbeats came. The two of them, Athena and Hephaestus, had arrived. Looking at the strong man who was nearly 2 meters tall and holding a giant hammer, Cotter and the others were shocked again. Visit novelband.com for latest novels. Of course, they knew Athena, but who was the person who suddenly appeared now? Miss Athena and Mr. Asclepius also appeared suddenly like this. Could it be that this person in front of them? Then Asclepius walked out with a smile. Hephaestus, I didn't expect it to be you this time. As soon as Asclepius sensed the smell of Hephaestus, he rushed over immediately. Asclepius, I didn't expect you to arrive here earlier. Hephaestus laughed and hugged Asclepius. Sure enough, they knew each other. Looking at the two people who were just like old friends, Cotter confirmed his guess. Master Locke became more and more mysterious. Cotter sighed again. But he had been watching Master Locke grow up. Master Locke had been living in Fifth City and had never come into contact with these people. While Hephaestus and Asclepius were greeting each other, Locke said to Cotter, "Uncle Cotter, there is indeed a black iron mine in the mountains. The black iron mine actually exists." Cotter took a deep breath and became excited. However, after excitement, his face was covered with a layer of dark clouds. This was a black iron mine. Could they keep it, which the noble families were fighting for? Although our enemies were very powerful, no matter what decision Master Locke made, we would carry it out. Master Locke, what are you going to do now? With determination in his eyes, Cotter asked. Since the black iron mine is in Lister, it belongs to me. No one can take it away. Locke smiled faintly and said in a very confident tone. Then he ordered Cotter, "Now, our first task is to mine ores. I'll arrange it now and start mining as soon as possible." Cotter nodded. There were nearly 200 bandits captives in Lister. The labor force was abundant. Cotter continued to ask, "Are we going to contact the weapon forging towers and the weapon forging workshops in the Bone City to expand the channels for selling the black iron ores?" "Don't hurry." Locke shook his head. With the help of the black iron mine, in addition to the god of forging, they had to change the weapons in their territory first to improve their overall combat effectiveness, so that they could better deal with the subsequent crisis. Thinking of this, he said to Cotter, "After mining ores out, transport them directly to the open space beside the castle. I want to build a weapon workshop there." When the castle was built, several spare rooms were built around it. Now, these rooms only needed a little reconstruction to be used as a workshop. A weapon workshop. After a short pause, Cotter smiled bitterly and said, "Master Locke, don't you remember that we don't have a forger? Besides, it will be an expensive expense to invite a forger to refine weapons. In Icacia continent, in addition to healers, there were array mages, who studied arrays, and beast trainers, who could tame powerful magical beasts to fight for them. As for forgers, they were specialized in forging weapons. Who said we don't have a forger?" Locke smiled mysteriously and then looked in the direction of Hephaestus. "We have the best forger in the world. Did we have our forger?" This time, Cotter was stunned. When did we have a forger? Even in the Bone City, there were only 2 forgers of level 1, let alone our small territory. Noticing that Locke was looking at Hephaestus, Cotter was shocked and then thought of a possibility. Was he the most expensive forger? Thinking of this possibility, Cotter's breath became faster and faster. The forgers were a group of superior existences. Now there was a forger in the territory. With a smile on his face, Hephaestus came over and said to Locke, "I want to handle the workshop myself." Locke nodded. Hephaestus was a forger, so it should be easy for him to change a workshop. Excited, Cotter went to arrange for someone to mine the black iron mine. In just one night, Hephaestus had renovated the workshop. The forging furnaces, forging tables, quenching tanks, files. Looking at the rows of dazzling forging tools, Locke was surprised. What's more, as long as they stepped into the workshop, the air around them became a little hot. My former forging field was connected to the earth fire, and the scale was many times larger than this. There was no earth fire here, so the three of us worked together to set up a small array. With my special divine power, we created the effects of lava. Hephaestus was quite satisfied with the current workshop and explained to Locke with a smile. As Locke approached, he saw the boiling lava in the furnaces, and the hot breath came from time to time. If anyone fell into the lava, he or she would die, not leaving corpses. At the same time, Cotter had found the location of the black iron mine and arranged for more people to mine it. Because the black iron was very hard, it was very difficult to mine it. 2 days later, a cart of black ores was finally transported to the castle. The two of them, Athena and Asclepius, were already used to the forging skills. They didn't have any curiosity and were doing their things in the castle. Only Locke was interested in forging skills, so he went to the workshop to see the process of weapon forging. After they got the black iron ores, they couldn't use them directly but needed to refine the ores. With a wave of his big hand, a full cart of ores weighing up to 1,000 pounds was carried into the forging furnace by the great divine power. Swoosh tilde. A dark red flame appeared in Hephaestus's hand. Locke clearly felt that the flame was several times stronger than the one he and Athena condensed with the fire element. Suddenly, Hephaestus threw the flame in his hand into the forging furnace. Boom! The fire inside the forging furnace flickered. The glittering black iron ores were directly ignited. The originally hard black iron ores now had little bubbles on their surface, and then they began to melt like the cheese in the microwave. Hephaestus was the god who had the title of fire god at the same time. Looking at the powerful flame that could melt black iron, Locke sighed secretly. 10 minutes passed. The black iron ores in the forging furnace had turned into a mass of slightly black thick liquid. The black thick liquid in the forging furnace began to stir automatically. To Locke's surprise, the liquid began to change during the stirring. A small part of the liquid turned pure black, and most of the liquid turned multicolored. Hephaestus waved his hand again. Something in the forging furnace was opened, and a multicolored mixture of unknown substances flowed out from the left mouth of the forging furnace. Soon, there were only about 5 liters of pure black liquid left in the forging furnace. Are these all not necessary? Locke asked curiously as he looked at the gradually cooling multicolored mixture. Although he was not familiar with the forging skills, looking at these things, they did not look like anything good. Hephaestus nodded and said, "Yes, these are the impurities in the black iron ores." After separating most of the impurities, Hephaestus did not stop extracting. The pure black liquid in the forging furnace was still flowing, tearing, and combining rapidly. Another half an hour later, the liquid in the forging furnace stopped and another pile of impurities was separated. It can be called black iron liquid now. Looking at the black iron liquid in the forging furnace, Hephaestus said with satisfaction. After the refinement was finished, under the control of Hephaestus, the black iron liquid flew out of the forging furnace and landed on the sword-shaped mold prepared in advance. Soon, a pure black iron sword appeared in front of Locke. Half an hour later, the iron was completely cooled down. Hephaestus lifted the iron with divine power and threw it into the forging furnace. Within a minute, the iron weapon had turned red. Another minute later, he took out the iron weapon. Ding, clang, ding, clang. Hephaestus grabbed the hammer placed aside and began to beat it. Blue veins stood out on his arms. Soon, under the hammer's attack, the blade of the sword turned into a thin piece. With a sweep of Hephaestus's arm, the thin piece seemed to be grabbed by an invisible hand and then folded together. Ding, clang. After folding, he continued to beat. Hephaestus threw it into the forging furnace, heated it until turning red. Then he took it out. Beating, folding again and again. According to the introduction of Hephaestus, this was a process of forging, repeating fold forging, and further extracting impurities to improve the toughness of black iron. A sword like this usually needed over 10,000 times of forging. After several times of folding, there were more than 10 layers of obvious texture on the iron weapon. Shocked, Locke suddenly remembered that he had obtained the drawing of the sword in the stone when he completed the planting task last time. Thinking of this, he took out the drawing and handed it to Hephaestus. He asked expectantly, "I have a drawing of the sword in the stone. Can you forge it now? The sword in the stone is a good weapon." After reading the drawing for a long time, Hephaestus said slowly, although the structure is a little complicated, it's not a problem for me. The sword in the stone made of this low-grade iron won't be of much high level. He put away the drawing and said with a smile, with your current strength, you can't control the sword in the stone, even it's in front of you. Locke nodded with a smile. High-level weapons often had their consciousness and would reject low-level users. After handing the design drawing to Hephaestus, Locke found that it was late and decided to go back to have a rest. Don't you need to keep an eye on it? Seeing Hephaestus was also preparing to leave with him, Locke was a little surprised. I am a god. Hephaestus laughed, turned around, and walked towards the castle. The sound of forging iron came from the workshop before Locke could understand what Hephaestus meant. After a short pause, Locke shrugged helplessly. It seemed that he thought too much. Hephaestus was the god of forging. He didn't need to stay by the side of the iron all the time like ordinary forgers. After forging, compounding, engraving, quenching, sharpening, and other complicated craftsmanship, 10 days later, the first batch of weapons had come out. There were 6 long swords, 2 long blades, and 2 big swords. There were 10 level 2 weapons in total. As soon as the weapons came out, Locke distributed the exclusive weapons to Cotter, Curtin, Sam, and Becky first. As for the other retinues and subordinates, they were not even practitioners now. Even if they had level 2 weapons, they could not play many roles. So to encourage practice, Locke sent a notice directly. As long as one became the level 1 practitioner, he could get a level 2 weapon. When they knew that as long as they became level 1 practitioners, they would be able to obtain level 2 weapons, everyone was shocked and activated the crazy practice mode. On the training ground outside the castle. Curtin, this is the first time I've seen such a superb carving technique. Looking at the carved texture on the big sword in his hand, Cotter exclaimed. I'm afraid it's not just the carving technique. Look at the pattern in the sword like flowing water, it's perfect. How about we try the strength of this weapon? Curtin suggested, looking at the big sword. With his eyes lit up, Cotter said without hesitation, okay, let's try my level 1 big sword. He was also very curious about the power of the level 2 big sword. Clang. To everyone's astonishment, the original big sword of Cotter was directly cut into 2 pieces. When they looked at the big black iron sword, there was only a trace of being scratched on the blade. Broken. How? So powerful. I'm afraid the hardness of this big sword is about to catch up with a level 3 weapon. Curtin said in strong shock. Ordinary level 2 big swords couldn't easily break the level 1 big swords. Yes, this is definitely the top weapon of level 2. Cotter said in a trembling voice, his face full of uncontrollable excitement. As a practitioner, the weapon was the greatest help in the battle. Think about it, if 2 level 2 practitioners had a life and death battle, and one of their weapons was directly cut off by the other party, how could continue the fight? In the heart of Cotter and the others, the status of Hephaestus had risen again. Perhaps Master Locke didn't lie to them. Hephaestus was really the best forger in the world. Read latest chapters on novel B.com. Locke discussed with Hephaestus and decided to forge some weapons and sell them. Half a month later, Hephaestus had forged 30 level 1 weapons and 10 level 2 weapons. Of course, the weapons of level 1 and level 2 were not comparable to the weapons of level 1 and level 2 forged by ordinary forgers. On the second day, with this batch of weapons, the crowd headed for Bone City with great momentum. At noon, a city of more than 10 meters high appeared in front of everyone. This was the Bone City. It covered an area of more than 30 square kilometers and was the largest city in several nearby territories. After paying the entrance fee, the crowd entered Bone City. The streets were lined with houses, signs and flags of stores were flying, and the streets were crowded with people. It was a lively and prosperous scene. Looking at the constant stream of people on the street, Locke sighed, this seems to be the first time I've seen such a prosperous scene in months. Locke felt that things had changed. When he came to Lister, there was nothing. In just a few months, he obtained the god system and summoned 3 gods. He also practiced the small universe and became the level 1 mage. All newest chapters on note.velby.com. If those people had known his current situation, they would have been shocked. Athena, Asclepius, and Hephaestus also looked curiously at the first city they saw after they came to this world. Of course, Hephaestus didn't take out the hammer. Otherwise, a strong man carrying a hammer would frighten many people. Cotter took his retinues to deliver the weapons for sale to the station post. At the same time, Locke decided to take Athena and the others to feel the food in the world. There were only potatoes, the existing crops in Lister, and these potatoes were not mature yet. Most of the food supply was bought from Bone City by men sent by Locke. The variety and richness of food were naturally not as good as that of Bone City. About more than 10 minutes later, Locke and the three of them arrived at a Lebanon hotel that was over 10 meters high. Lebanon Hotel was a typical Gothic building. The west side was the entrance of the front door, and above was an exquisitely carved rose window. The east side was surrounded by a corridor, and the whole outside was exquisitely carved, looking magnificent. However, after taking a glance at the images of the carvings on the pillars, Hephaestus was not interested in them at all. The sculptor is not good at carvings. The textures are not smooth enough. His carving action is not fluent. Look at the rose window. The design is in a mess. I can't even stand it. Besides, look at that statue. It has no facial details and glassy eyes. It's a waste of sculpture materials. Hephaestus didn't try to hide his voice and began to comment casually. The aristocrats around him gradually darkened their faces after hearing what he said. Not everyone is a master of forging like you. Noticing the change in the people's eyes, Locke said helplessly, if you continue, I'm afraid we won't be able to have dinner today. Hephaestus stopped and saw the nobles around him staring at him angrily. It was known that this Lebanon Hotel was one of the landmark buildings in Bone City. It was famous for its exquisite and gorgeous design. The nobles in Bone City often came here for fun. Now, there was a person who said it was a bad place. He was humiliating the nobles. You have done a bad job. Why don't you let others talk about it? Hephaestus grumbled, and even though he said so, he stopped. Athena and Asclepius gave helpless smiles and followed Locke to the hall. A meal here would cost at least dozens of gold coins. According to Acacia Continent's conversion, 1 gold coin was equal to 100 coins and 1 silver coin was equal to 100 copper coins. A gold coin was the monthly expense of many ordinary families. According to Locke's previous economic level, he wouldn't spend hundreds of gold coins to have a meal here, but now it was different. He had made a huge fortune when he dealt with the bandits. The weapons he was going to sell were estimated to be worth more than 100,000 gold coins. As soon as Locke and the others entered the hall, a tall maid with bared long legs came up to them. Distinguished guests, welcome to Lebanon Hotel. What can we do for you? The maid was highly cultivated, and her voice was soft and pleasant to hear. All the maids recognized Locke as a noble at the first sight because Locke was dressed in aristocratic clothes. Oh my God, he was so handsome. Looking at Locke's handsome face secretly, the maid blushed and her heart skipped a beat. Did this noble master just arrive in Bone City? The maid thought to herself, as the person in charge of reception, she had seen almost all the nobles in Bone City, but she had never seen Locke. But she didn't think she had a chance. Looking at the noble, beautiful and elegant Athena beside Locke, the maid felt a little dejected in her eyes. Arrange a big private room for us. Locke nodded with a smile. Soon, the maid led Locke and the others to the private room. Filet steak, crispy goose liver with mushroom, caviar seafood platter. Locke, Asclepius, and Hephaestus ordered more than 10 dishes. In addition to these, Athena also ordered 7 or 8 desserts, such as tiramisu, marzipan, soccer cake, and so on. A meal cost more than 1,000 gold coins. Looking at the dishes ordered by Locke and others, the maid was a little surprised. Even in Bone City, few people could eat thousands of gold coins for a meal. Lebanon Hotel was very efficient. Within half an hour, all the dishes had been served. Although the skill of carving is not very good, the food in this world is good. Hephaestus said with satisfaction while chewing the beef. Asclepius was also eating with his head down and nodding sullenly, still approving of Hephaestus' words. Athena, on the other hand, enjoyed the food elegantly. Bang tilde. Just as everyone was enjoying their meal, the door of the private room was suddenly pushed open. A young man broke in, followed by 2 guards. The young man was wearing a trainee magic robe, with his royal-style curly hair covering his shoulder. He raised his head, looked down at the people in the room arrogantly, and finally stopped on Locke. When the young man saw Locke, he was first stunned, and then smiled contemptuously. I heard from my subordinate that someone bragged that the hotel's carving is low-end. Then the young man walked in and looked at Locke arrogantly. Now I see you, Locke Capet. I seem to understand. Church Yalman. Looking at the young man who came in, Locke frowned slightly. After thinking for a while, Locke finally remembered his name. In addition to the students of Mage Academy also set up a magic awakening class to teach the magic principles of children who hadn't awakened magic talent. The man in front of him was called Church Yalman, the son of a viscount, who was in the same class as Locke. Locke didn't like a playboy like Yalman, so they didn't get along well.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and see you in the next chapter.